Pastor Seven to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And appreciate your presence today. Thank you for being on with us. We give all honor and praise to the Most High, Yahweh Elohim. We give all praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A and D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. To the ministerial staff, to SOC, to the moderators, I bow down to you. Thank you, moderators. I appreciate your presence and what you do. I'm missing something still. I'm missing one thing I cannot find. Trying not to run. Oh, okay. I'm fine. I'm straight. I'm out. Right. Thank you guys for being on again. Appreciate your presence. Thanks for hanging out with us. You could be doing a plethora of things that are not involved with you being here today or being involved with getting this word or this message. But we appreciate you. I've been outside already. Feels like all day. So I'm going to be sweating a little bit. It is what it is. We praise Yah for the toxins being released. And I apologize. I hope it's not a turn off to you. If you see a little bit of sweat, it is what it is. But I thank you for being on with us. We appreciate you. And we're going to get into this message. We're going to get right into this. And we're thankful once again to everybody for being on with us today. Today I want to ask a question and let's just get right into it. The theme for today is who pays your wages? And I'm sorry, let's say hello to everybody real quick. How you doing? MIC Stephen, Minister Anais, Sister Sherry, how you doing? Minister Morel, Sister Tori, King, JIG, if I'm saying that right. I still don't know. Is it Tati? Carmel? London the Yellow? Well, if you refer to your person like that, then that's probably why you lost them. Part of the reason. But hey, it is what it is. I'm not here to call women a B or support that. I hope that you feel better though. How you doing, Aiden? Sister Nadine, DB, Jonas, RW, Jenny, MIT Jenny, excuse me. Sister Dakura, Queen, Marvin, everybody. I apologize. I miss your name, church to my head, not to my heart. Romac, everybody, come on in, come on in. How y'all doing, Sister Betty? Hello. Everybody who's on here, come on in, come on in. If I missed your name, once again, forgive me, please. We have multiple platforms that we're on, and so it can be easy for me and my humanity to make a mistake and miss your name, but I do appreciate your presence. How you doing, Brother Alton? Once again, today we're going to ask the question, who pays your wages? Who pays your wages? Seems like a weird question, quite possibly, but it's a question that's on point. Who pays your wages? The reason I ask this is because in our canon, in our belief system, in my culture, we have a belief system that tells us that we should worry about where we're getting our pay, where we're getting our love, where do we get our appreciation from, where are we getting our mindset from. These are things that we have to be aware of, right? Because the wages of sin is death. And thanks for the love and how you doing, Diavaz. The wages of sin is death, right? People get paid all the time for death. Matter of fact, if I can go a little deeper, right? The wages of sin is death. And then if we also want to talk about it, we can also talk about it from the perspective of death and life is in the power of the tongue. Some people speak death because they know they'll get paid for death, right? The enemy comes but to steal, kill, and destroy, to make people unalive, to make people not relevant, to make what you're doing lose life, right? But the wages of sin is death. As a matter of fact, if we look at it, not only the wages of sin is death, right? But faith without works is considered to be something that causes us to be not alive. I'm going to have to use the D word somewhat, so forgive me. I know the moderators stay on me about this because I'm going to have to quote scripture, but I promise I'll try my best to make sure that I use other words as much as is possible. Amen. Right? But if the wages of sin, now what is sin? Missing the mark. Right? If the wages of sin is, in fact, something that takes away life, then we have to realize, even before we get to the gift of Elohim, a lot of people don't care about the gift because in their life, so to speak, this life that they say they have, they get paid to stay in the same place, to have dreams, go no further, to have mindsets that cause people to stumble, to have relationships that aren't supposed to last until you know, death does us part. A lot of people are not willing to have conversations that are going to live forever. Right? How you doing? She travels. A lot of people are not willing to have conversations that will live forever. Oh, I just realized I'm missing something that I really, really need, but that's okay. Amen. Matter of fact, I'm sorry, you all. You saw up here come the contradictions. What are the contradictions? What are the contradictions? Go ahead and give them to me, because since you already know, and moderators, I bow down to you, but I just want to see. Go ahead and tell me all the contradictions that I'm about to say, because you have no clue probably where we're going, and you probably made an assumption about me because I've mentioned the scripture, and maybe you made an assumption about me because of how I look. I don't know, but go ahead and tell me what my contradictions are, because see, you've already came with up. Somebody already blocked them. All right, never mind. All right. So the wages of sin is something that causes us to be unalive, right? Missing the mark. How you doing, Sister Nadine? How you doing, Juanetta? Right? The wages of sin. The wages of sin is something that causes people not to be alive, even including how somebody came on that was already ready to tell you, this is what they're going to talk about. This is what I'm going to assume. They have no value. They're not going to say anything that can help our diaspora. How you doing, Drea? People have already decided. But see, what happens is that people, I've said this before, one of my goals on here is to make sure that you become unemployable. And I don't just mean only that you will have your own business, because I don't want you to be out here with nothing. So when I say unemployable, I'm talking about you won't be employed by anything outside of what Yah has for you. That's a part of my goal, right? I being a Levite, listen, I live by this. If I'm going to do what I'm called to do, I am not allowed to be employed. I'm not allowed to have a 9 to 5. I've tried this with a 9 to 5, and it always backfires. It always, shortens things up. It gets things taken down. It gets people who were, you know, standing behind us and growing with us and being on the streets with us and all this stuff. It gets them to leave, because as a Levite, I have a responsibility that doesn't end and doesn't begin, but it's eternal. I don't get to stop doing what I do simply because the lights go off or because the live session's not going on or whatever the case might be, right? But the wages of sin, how you doing, virtuous enterprise? Virtuous enterprise, excuse me. The wages of sin is something that causes life to go away. And if we're going to talk about this today, then we must be honest and real about it. And I have to ask the question, right? Who pays your wages? Who pays your wages? Now, because I have to introduce this, because Yehoshaphat, he paid it all. Is that correct? How you doing, Darius? How you doing, MIT Jelani? How you doing, Atenia? If Yehoshaphat paid it all, then I don't need anybody to pay my wages. How you doing, one Marlon? Come on, somebody, right? I just see, because we say these scriptures and we never bring them together. How you doing, Black Love? And we definitely don't live them together. But I just want to remind you, see, if Yehoshaphat paid it all, if everything is paid, how you doing, Black Steel? If everything is taken care of, then if Yehoshaphat paid it all, then the wages that I'm trying to get are not even necessary. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm working, or I'm jobbing, or I'm toiling. How you doing, Brother Vincent? I'm not here to tell you to get rid of your job. Right? I'm here, right? If the Holy Spirit's going to help you with that, or help you make a decision on that, or whatever, or maybe you've lost it and you're trying to figure out what you're going to do next or whatever, I'll let the Holy Spirit deal with that. Right? Hopefully something that I have might help you along in that journey, if that's something that you're doing, or if that's a goal, or whatever the case might be. But the wages of sin causes no life, right? And if it causes no life, then why am I looking for wages in the wrong places? How you doing, ball over all? Right? Why am I looking for payment in places? Watch this. See, people who do what they love, or people who do what they're called to do, they do things that they would do even if there were no wages. When I was on the street, I did what I do now. When I was living a single parent life, how you doing, Sister Deja? When I was living a single parent life, I did what I do now. When I was in prison, I did what I do now, right? Um, and when I realized, right, well, in humbling yourself, when I realized when you get humbled and you're in situations and you still do a certain thing that you're pulled to do, you realize is that I would do this even if there were no wages. Now, and some people say, well, how do I know my gift? How do I know my calling? How do I know what I'm supposed to do? What is my purpose in life? Well, when you get to a place to where you realize that there are certain things that you would do even if nobody asked you for any kind of financial reward, or nobody offered you any kind of financial reward, you're starting to get on the right track, right? I am Yahweh's wife. So are you, scripturally speaking, right? If you are the body of the Messiah, then you should be the wife of the Most High, right? And and my husband, who I'm betrothed to, Yahashua, he paid it all. So when I started living like everything I did was already paid for, then I started living how I was supposed to live and how y'all wanted me to live. Somebody missed that. Can I say that again? How you doing, MIT Tracy? May I say that again? When I started living, hear me now. When I started living as if Yahashua had already paid for everything, I started living in faith. But not only did I have the faith that he did it, watch this, I really started living in works. See, because faith without works also is something that gets me the same wages as sin. Because if I have faith but never do the works, as if I have the faith, then that's sin. And the wages of sin attracts what? See, yeah, the law of attraction, right? The wages of sin attracts what? Missing the mark and trying to put things that pay me before things that are already paid for is when I start to miss the mark. People don't want to hear that. People say, "Oh, you're oversimplifying." How you doing, Prince? I'm not oversimplifying. I'm trying to tell you what it is. Even your motivational speakers tell you this. How you doing, Jacqueline? Even the people, and thanks for being part of the community. Thanks for being part of the community. It's a I'm not gonna pronounce this right. They said Kale or Kalilike or Kalilike. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right at all, but thank you for being on. Right. But the wages of falling short is having no life. And if I have faith in something but I never work it, then it still gets me the same pay. So I have to ask you, right, who pays your wages? Because if everything's already paid, then why are you looking for somebody to pay your wages? And I'm not saying, once again, this is to be taken 100% as far as I got to do exactly what he's saying today, do exactly what it is. How you doing, 444? I've got to get rid of my job and blah, blah, right? What I'm trying to tell you is the goal is for you, as I've said plenty of times before in other live sessions, the goal is for me, if I were to give you anything, it's the ability to live and not be employable. If you get to a place, how you doing, Sister Patricia? If you get to a place where you are unemployable, how you doing, Latoya? If you get to a place to where you are unemployable, catch what I'm saying. If you will get to a place where you're unemployable, see, I tried the same thing I do now, the same way I help people's lives now, the same way that I put effort into making people's businesses stronger, and their marriages stronger, and their relationships stronger, and their love of self stronger, and their motive, and to find out what their motives are, so we can figure out what the motivation should be, and all the stuff like that. The things that I've put the effort and energy and prayers and all the stuff into, trust and believe. Trust me when I say Trust me when I say that I tried to put it in all these companies and everything, right? I tried. I asked. I set it up to where they instead of paying me 250 a year, they could pay me 100,000 a year. I asked. I tried. I had the 3-piece suit on. I had the haircuts and stuff. Y'all have seen me. Some of you have seen the pictures that we put up at the end of this, and maybe you've seen other things from the past and stuff. I tried to blend in and do what it was. Matter of fact, I had already started living the way that I'm living now. I tried to cut that out because somebody offered me the opportunity to be a pastor of a church, and I thought, okay, well, since I'm already supposed to be called to be a pastor, maybe this is an opportunity. I'd even cut off my locks at one point and tried to do that. This was years ago, but tried to cut off my locks and do all this stuff. I tried to go back to the suit and tie. I pulled out my robe. I made sure that I said things that were nice the way they wanted to hear it, and still didn't get the gig. And I started realizing that no matter how many gigs I've worked, no matter how many times I've tried, no matter how many resumes I put in, it's not that I wasn't qualified, but sometimes you don't get hired because you're overqualified. But when you're overqualified, you're still unemployable. Same with you, Sister Patricia. I hear you. I see you. See, even if you're overqualified, that's still an excuse that people use not to do what? To pay you. If I'm going to get paid wages, I have to be somebody who's qualified, even if I'm overqualified. See, yeah, if you set apart, you can become overqualified. Right? I played music with some of the great names. Right? I've traveled the world. I've been able to sit at the feet of many different people while traveling the world. Right? But some of these people wouldn't pay me. But I look back and I say, I'm so glad that I don't receive wages from them. But I decided to do what Yah's called me to do. And when I realized that, what I realized is, once again, I don't get my wages from them because everything's already paid for as long as I'm in the will. So watch this. I have to be in the will of the one who pays me. I get paid for a service. But if everything's already been paid, then my service goes to the one to where everything's already been paid. Right? Anybody who's worked for a company, when I worked for the military, when I worked for different companies, when I've gone and spoken to different corporations, when I've gone and preached or done meetings or whatever the case might be, I'm here to tell you that there are some people who they require a service from you, and they see that the service in you is so powerful. Hear what I'm trying to tell you? The service in you is so powerful that they've already decided to pay for everything. So all they say is, look, we're going to pay. We've already paid for the service. Before you even do it, we already know this is what the average thing is. This is what we think your value is. This is what we'd like to be able to do. We'd like to be able to put your family up in a hotel. We'd like to make sure that you have a vehicle to get to and from. We'd like to be able to make sure, and they're saying that what you carry, they're not paying me. See, they have multiple people they might come and speak. So they're not paying me, they're paying for the gift. They already have it set in the budget. See, people don't get this when you're unemployable. This is how it works. People come into contract with you and they say, look, we need you to help us. See, your gift is already needed and it's required. Matter of fact, we had to budget it out. So you see, people don't catch this now. There are people who are already budgeting out time and prayers and effort and love and appreciation. They already got it budgeted out, but you've got to see where that is. See, what you do is you look for the people who put you in who have budgeted out for you to do what it is that they want, and you live paycheck to paycheck. But in certain companies, they have things to where we already have to get rid of this money, right? If there are certain types of 501c3s are connected to 501c3s, they're right. Or if you have Fortune 500 companies, they already tithe before the year starts, right? In October, right? Usually that's when the first quarter for a lot of companies actually is. It's usually going to be in October. Why? Because you're getting yourself ready for the new year. How you doing, Nicola? Right? Nicola. How you doing, Freddie? How you doing, Iska? See, so they start budgeting prior to the new year. Roll with me now. They start budgeting prior to the new year. They're already prepared, and they say, we're going to set aside money. We might need a motivational speaker. We might need somebody who's an accountant. We might need somebody who teaches people how to make sure that they're better customer account representatives. We might need to have somebody come and be able to, we might have 4 parties planned out for the year. And so we need to have 4 different parties planned out. They're already planning for people to come in and to serve. They know that their service is not only required, it is mandatory. It is also something that's going to make them look great, and they're even going to get a return on their investment, because especially if they're doing 501c3 stuff, they know that whatever they're going to give out to the community, or whatever they're going to get, or whatever the case might be, whatever they're going to have somebody speak, they already know. Oh, thank you so much, Amy. I appreciate it. I mean, I'm dealing with medical issues that cause my, whatever. But thank you so much for doing that. Hopefully, you can do humanity better next time, right? But I still appreciate you. We're praying for you that hopefully you get your life together. That being said, right? Like, so I have all these people. You hear what I'm saying? Who are in a position, right, to where when you're seeing these things, or you're talking about these things, right? You're already in a position. Do you hear what I'm saying? You're already in a position. You hear what I'm saying? Where people are trying their hardest to do you dirty, to do you wrong, right? People are trying their hardest, but you need to go to a place to where people are trying their hardest to make sure that there's an open spot for your gift. How you doing, 8 of spades? How you doing, user 357-185, etc.? Thanks for being part of the community. Right? You have to realize that there are people who are trying to do their hardest to help you in your gift. right? There are people who have already budgeted and put aside time because it's required, right, in their yearly plan, in their yearly vision. It's required that they be better and that they make people better and that they find people to help them to improve. And so when you come to them, they already have everything paid. You're not signing a contract so that they'll pay you. They already have set aside. It's already paid. You're just walking into what's already taken care of. How you doing, Iron Grid? I just saw your name pop up yesterday. Long time no talk to, right? These companies, they already have the money set aside. See, but what happens is you think that you need to get a wage and to try and have, how you doing, Sister Monica? You think you need to have a wage and you need to try and figure out how much would they pay you, and will they pay me $10 an hour, $15 an hour, $20 an hour? Will they pay me 30? All right, cool. Will they give me this much vacation? But there are some people who live, watch this, I don't really get vacations. But some people would say, well, you travel a lot, you do this. Well, it's like you have a vacation. I don't vacate what I do because I'm in my work all the time. And when I'm in my work, there are people who have set aside things because it's already paid. The scripture says it like this: give, and it shall be given unto thee. Elohim's measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. But here's the part that we miss sometimes. Shall men give unto your bosom? For with the same measure that you meet, shall it be given unto thee. So before I even go there, Yah says, whatever I give, he's going to give back to me in his measure, but he's going to already have it set up where there are men, right? There are human beings that are ready to already sow into me. Because why? It's already paid for. I wonder why you keep working for wages and they never told you stop working for wages and instead let the gift make room for you because it's already paid for. Your goal is to develop your gift and use your gift and let your gift make room. My goal is not to worry about how much I get paid. And therefore, there are certain things that I'm not looking for. I'm not looking for your wages. You said you'll quit your job. Well, if that's what the Holy Spirit told you to do, as I said earlier, I'm not telling you quit your job, especially if you don't have a vision at some point, right? Because that means that you haven't developed the gift yet, or you haven't made room for it if you don't have a vision. But if that's what the Most High said do, if you know that's what you do, if you're ready, if you're confident, if you're consistent enough, if you're accountable enough, not just to others, but to yourself enough, then go ahead and do those things, right? If that's what they're saying, right? But I'm just trying to give you something that goes along with that. The wages of sin, right? The wages of sin. See, the wages of falling short. No wonder you don't like. See, the wages of sin, right, is something that causes you to feel like you have no life. No wonder you hate hitting that. No wonder you hate hearing your alarm clock. How you doing, Sister Helen? No wonder you don't think about your alarm clock. Do you hear what I'm saying? No wonder you don't think about your alarm clock. You don't like it. Some of us don't use an alarm clock because I love what I do. I get up, right? The wages of sin is something that causes you to not move. Sinning, once again, just means to miss the mark. I wonder how many people have missed the mark or had others miss the mark when they were raising them, teaching them, etc. Why? 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 Because you had people that sinned or fell short because they didn't even make sure that they operated in your gift or helped you to develop it. I wonder how many children came to school and they said, what do you want to be when you get older? And you said, I want to be a dancer. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a doctor. I want to be this. I want to be that. And somebody said, oh, that's nice. Okay, well, let's find some other things we can do. And now let's teach you all these other things instead of focus. You see, if you go to schools in other countries, let's say you go to Europe, let's say you go to Switzerland. In Switzerland, if you're going to be a dancer, then yes, you go to school when you're younger like everybody else does, but you focus in dancing. And when you get to what you might think is secondary school, you figure out and they do it younger, then you still focus on dancing because that's what you say your gift is, right? We might teach you some of the other things that you need in life, of course, and they actually learn a lot more younger and they have a lot less homework. Why? Because the homework and stuff is not that mandatory. It's not necessary. Matter of fact, it's like working out in the gym. If you're always given homework assignments, that means that you're working and then you go to school and you work and you come home. It's like it would be like going to the gym, being in there 8 hours and coming home and working on something for an hour, 2 hours, and then going back and going back and going back, never getting the rest. It's a different mindset. But see, your only school system that you think of is one that Thomas Jefferson laid out, and one that the not the Rothschilds, but the Rockefellers laid out. So here you are going through something sinful that causes you to miss the mark, and you're ever learning. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 7, you're ever learning, never coming into the knowledge of the truth. The word knowledge meaning intimacy. And how you doing, Spruce? Thanks for being on. See, so how you doing, Joseph? So a lot of us are living in something that causes us to miss the mark so much, and we've never developed the gift. How you doing, Molly? We never developed the gift. We've developed other companies, but we've never developed our gift. I didn't say you didn't develop a gift, right? I didn't say you didn't develop a gift. I said you never developed what? The gift. I did not say that you never did anything at all. I'm saying you never did what you were called to do. And a lot of people get irritated. You get all the money, you get all the prestige, you make it to the highest points, and you get there and you say, is this it? Because it doesn't even feed you. See, those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, they shall be filled. You went and you were hungering after everything else, but it never fed you. And so here you are with these empty calories. You became the strongest one on the planet, and yet, what did that get you? How you doing, Travaris? How you doing? Like some people have told stories about winning the Super Bowl, and as the confetti fell down and they were crying, right? Everybody else around them thought that they were celebrating, but they've told stories about, there's been people who have said, I saw the confetti falling down and I realized, is this it? You know, I'm 30 years old. Since I was 6 years old, this is all I did. I didn't focus on school. I didn't focus on family, right? Matter of fact, you know, I'm a great Hall of Famer, but my family has fallen apart. I didn't see my children grow up, all this stuff. Here I am. I finally won the Super Bowl. Is this it? Is this all there is to it? How you doing, Chucky? Thanks for being part of the community. And Alexis, thanks for being on as well. Right? And a lot of people have that experience. You get to the end and you got paid all these wages and you paid blood, sweat, and tears and all this stuff. And you get to where it is and you still hungry. It doesn't make any sense if I make you a 8-course meal and at the end of the meal, you're still hungry. Something not right. Either I'm not feeding you anything, or it looks like I'm feeding you food, or I'm giving you extremely small portions. How you doing, Sister Deborah? See, the wages of sin causes us to realize that we have not lived for anything. But there are people who go through that stuff because they realize that's not all there was to it. There are some of you who have been managers. I've talked to you who have been managers, have been over 1,000, 2,000 people at the same time, right? Some of you have gone, I've gone to battle before. Some of you have gone to war. Some of you have been in the military, had people under you, whatever, and done all that or whatever. And in the midst of it, looked around and said, why am I doing this? I remember what it was to be in the military and be asked to pray. And when I started to pray, realized that I couldn't even pray in the name of the one I believed in, or else it was a possibility I could get locked up. And even though I said, in his name we pray, I said to myself, what's the point of this? If they say that this is about fighting for freedom, but I can't even be free enough to pray to the one whom I serve. I can't say Yahashua. I can't, you couldn't say Jesus if you wanted. You couldn't say in the name of Allah. You couldn't say any of that. You had to, you just had to submit to whatever they said. You realized that this was not as free as you thought. It came with a wage. Yeah, you couldn't when you were in the Air Force. Yeah, it came with a wage. But there was no life. And for those who feel like you're going through something where you're getting wages, but you're getting no life, I've come with great news that Yahushua already paid it all. And he said he put a but in there. See, because he knew that a lot of people would forget that he already paid for it. He knew that a lot of people would go to school and nobody would tell you that he already paid for it. He knew that you would go to school to be able to get wages from somebody else and to make somebody else have a better vacation every year when you were still not able to take a vacation yourself every year. And he knew that you were going to have this sentence that would take away life. And so he said, since I know that this is what these people are going to go from, I came here and I wanted to remind you, I didn't come here just to say you can get up again. I didn't come here to say you could just shout. I didn't come here to say you could just have fun on Sunday. I didn't come here to say you could just have Bible study on Wednesday. I didn't say you could just come here to make sure that people bow down to you. I didn't come here just so you'll be an alpha male. I didn't come here so you could be the baddest bee. I came here that once you realize a lot of the stuff that you're chasing really is just falsified documentation of who you really are. When you realize that, I have come that you would have life and therefore more abundantly. How you doing, yellow girl? You hear what I'm saying? And shalom again, Eight of Spades. How you doing again? Right? You said you were the most unhappy, couldn't spend time with your family. Yeah. See, a lot of people will give you a lot of stuff when they realize, right? You'll get more. Have you ever thought about the fact that they'll give you more responsibility when you'll spend more time away from your family? They'll give you more money, but you just got, just take some work home with you. That used to be the worst for me. I remember that when I was running stuff. Wasn't even officially the manager of the furniture place yet, but was running stuff. Was doing everything, but technically everything ran through me. You had to come through me. And I was taking dossiers home. I was taking manila folders home. I was taking people's stuff home. I was taking stuff. We didn't really do credit checks, but so I had to make calls to people and stuff like that at that place. So I had to make all these calls and I would make them on my own time. And I'd be at home, family there, but I don't got time for this. You feed them. You take them outside. You take them on this vacation. You take them to their friend's house. You take them there. And you're missing out on your own child. You're missing out on your own family. How you doing, babe? My wife is on, the Honorable Maya. Once again, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N. Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Thank you, babe, for being on. I love you very much. All right. How you doing, Janice? Thanks for being part of the community. How you doing, Sister Gertrude? See, so the wages of sin, the wages of falling short is that. But I need to remind you, though, because somebody doesn't get it. I just want to remind you that, yes, Yahashua came that you might have life, but I just want to be careful because if you don't know any better, if you don't think about it any better, right? A lot of people don't. You can get paid for sin. It doesn't say that you can't get paid for sin. I'm not saying that it's lawful. I'm not saying that it's righteous. But yes, a lot of people get paid for sin. I mean, they'll pay you very well. I saw a photo of somebody that I didn't expect, hadn't seen in years. This was somebody who was like, I won't say exactly where they're from because some people who listen to me from time to time would know exactly who I'm talking about, and they might, if I say who it is. So I'll be very careful how I explain this. But I saw this person, and somebody had put a picture of them up. So I'm not Facebook friends or follow this person, but basically somebody else who knows this person and happens to know, and I happen to know the same person. This person put a picture of this person up and basically said like Happy Born Day, and who knows, this person's probably 55, something like that, right? And I looked at it, and they had a party and everything was, the person looked nice, but the venue wasn't what I would expect for this person, because this person, at least last time I knew him, this is probably 20 years ago now, maybe 15, 20 years ago somewhere. Last time I even talked to this person, I wasn't friends with the person. I just knew who this person was. This person had it all together. This person had condo in the best place, had, the condo with the fireplace in it, and, upstairs and downstairs in the condo, and, had all this money, had the really strong weightlifting boyfriend that was making money, doing what he was doing, and they didn't get along necessarily, but was a single mother and was trying to take care of this and that. But they always had everything from the outside looking in, but it seemed like they kind of lived a sad existence. But they always had everything, and even though the person, I don't, They got all the fake stuff on them and built into their body and all this stuff because they used to be in their area. They used to be the number. And when I say their area, it was a huge area. I won't tell you exactly where it is, so nobody tries to track this person down. But in their area, they were like the number one. The number one. I just say the way that they were the number one stripper in their area, right? And even did some stuff that was even a little strange for some change, even outside of stripping, right? And when I say number one, I'm talking about when people from the NFL, the NBA, MLB, whatever came through, that person was the person everybody tried to get to dance or try to see if they would go further than dancing. Okay. And I noticed that they were having this party, but even though I guess, to be honest, I don't think, well, I'll leave it alone. I won't be mean to somebody. Maybe you would think this person still look great or whatever. But I was like, I haven't seen this person in years. Like I said, could be 2 decades. I don't remember, but I haven't seen him in a really long time. And when I saw him, no, it couldn't be 2 decades, more like 15 years, however long it was. And when I saw him, I realized that they weren't on the same thing. They had wages and they still looked the part, but stuff around them you could tell wasn't what it used to be. See, because when they would have parties before, I mean, you talking about ballrooms taken out, and you wouldn't have seen stuff falling apart in the background, and you wouldn't have just seen a regular fold out table that had no cover on it and stuff. Like it was some stuff going on in that, and I realized that they had all those wages, but stuff in their life wasn't the same. It was never really what they portrayed it to be anyways, but stuff in their life definitely now wasn't the same. And I said, wow. And as I was getting ready for the day, the wages of sin is death. I said, wow, you know, this is the reward of all those years. This is what it looks like now. And when the last time I talked to them, they were trying to get out of it. So maybe it's because they've gotten out of it, and maybe it's because they did. But before, they were trying to say they were trying to go to church and stuff like that, but they were still doing all the stuff they were doing on the side. But who knows, right? I'm not gonna say I know exactly what's going on, but I can tell that there's some things when you look closely and I don't even know the person, but when you know of them and you know some of the stuff that was there behind the scenes, it became really clear to me that while everybody else was doing this and doing that, and she had a smile on her face and was taking pictures with everybody, and it was her day, I also could tell, this isn't quite, what she thought it was going to be. It was great in the season, even though she was having mental health issues, but it was great. And at least she was taking care of her child. And at least when at least she was gone during the night, but during the day, everybody seemed like she tried to fit right in, and she tried to wear the nice dresses and stuff and make sure everybody thought that but there's some stuff that now is showing up in manifestation. I'm not trying to do the slut shaming thing or whatever. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm talking about there is, for every choice, there's an invoice. Yeah, the happiest people in front of you can be the saddest behind closed doors. How you doing, Sister Kimberly? How you doing? Is it Jamel? Jamel? Thanks for being part of the community. Miss Leda, thanks for being on. Q80, thanks for being on. Appreciate you. Divine Chat, how you doing? Arkansas in the house already. We got a few people from Arkansas that come on here regularly. How you doing, Desire? Everybody, thank you for the love. Appreciate it. So yeah, so the wages of sin are things that are going to show up and start to be stripped. They're going to start to strip life. They're going to start to strip who you are. Yeah, it sounds great now to say, I don't need I don't need no man, bro. This is how y'all talk. Educational purposes only, but this is how y'all talk, bros before hoes, all this stuff that you say now. And you got some wages coming in from that. You get some pats on the back. You get some people who say, some red pill people that come on and support you. You have all these different things that happen, right? You have all these different things that happen in your life. And yes, it's great. It's great. It seems great. It seems great. You have all these different things in your life that seem great. I'm here to tell you, though, you can't escape the reward. It's like when we were talking about that receipt not too long ago. Thank you for the love. Appreciate it. We were talking about that receipt, and a lot of people don't look at the items or make sure that the receipt is itemized. You go to the hospital and they'll just charge you or your insurance all this stuff. And if you're not careful, what happens is that you get charged for things that you didn't even get, services that you didn't even get, items that you didn't even use, things that are not even necessary. And they'll overcharge you. And you don't question it because in your mind you're just so happy that the baby went out, and then they start messing with your baby, they start giving them shots, they start messing with your wife, or if you are the wife who's had the baby, and they start messing with you, and they start giving you shots, and they start saying we got to take them to the NICU and do all this stuff, and you're so flustered that by the time you leave out there, you don't even realize that they routed you and they took your insurance for a ride, or they took you for a ride. But if you're not careful, well, what you're supposed to do, just like any receipt you get from a store, you're supposed to take it and get the itemized receipt and look through it and say, wait a minute, you charged me $50 for a blanket, $250 for this blanket, $700 for this bottle. Who you think? No, we're not going to do that. And they didn't even use a bottle because my wife breastfed. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. But we don't even think about that because we just, let's get out of there as soon as possible, right? And you get another receipt in life to where you go, oh, okay, yeah, no problem. I'm willing to pay for, I'm willing to have people not like me. I'm willing to have people, be disgusted by my actions. I'm willing to do that because y'all are paying me. So yeah, I'll go ahead. I'm willing to go ahead and be known for twerking rather than being in my, I'd rather be known for being in my twerk than being in my work. Like, there's a lot of people that will go through all these different things. And yes, you go through them, but you don't look on the receipt. One of the things that it says on there itemized, one of the items is death. You said the creator is the force, form, and function that binds all cells in the known universe. If that's what your belief system is, no problem, right? That's not in my culture, but if that's something that you decide to take on, or if that's your belief that you have, hey, right? But the wages of sin, even in that, still dealing with law, natural law, and law of attraction, we would still have to realize that you got to be careful what you're attracting to yourself, right? So if we know that the wages of being under people who are missing the mark, right? You know what I'm saying? So we say that if we still say that the wages of sin, the wages of that I receive from somebody who constantly missing the mark is going to cause me to not have life, then I got to start asking myself, why am I getting wages from them? Today, once again, the theme is who pays your wages? How you doing, Michelle? How you doing, Cream? Right? Who pays your wages? Who pays them? Because it's either coming with death, it's coming with, or life. It's either going to cause things to not live, or it's going to have life. See, when that scripture is even given, we miss this. The way the enemy comes, I think it's John 10:10, right? The enemy come but to steal, kill, and destroy. However, it says, but, put a but in there, right? Cancel the first part out. If you realize that what I have come that you might have life, whoever pays for you is whoever is going to give you your reward. And with Yehoshaphat says, I paid it all. Remember, we just talked about, if you're going to go and speak at a corporate event, guess what's going to happen? They've already set aside. It's not even really that they're paying you. They're just basically giving you what they already set aside. It's this, the company outing has already been paid for. If you didn't speak, somebody else was going to speak. If you didn't make the food, somebody else was going to make the food. They didn't pay for you. They paid because the service was required. They paid for the gift. Come on, Ada Space. They paid for the gift. So when you develop your gift and you get on a level to where somebody will be able to give you, see, your husband already paid for that. We missed the context. It's already taken care of. It is already paid for. It is already new. It is already renewed. It is already done. It is already alive, right? But what we've been taught to do is keep looking for everybody to say, hey, come to the same place, do the same thing, listen, bow down. Maybe we'll give you vacation, right? Maybe we'll give you 2 weeks instead of 1 week. See, so you'll work for us for 52 weeks, but you'll only, but are you, instead of working for us for 51 weeks out of 52, you'll work for us for 50 out of 52. And you say, wow, that's great. Maybe I'll take a little less money from them because at least I'll have 2 weeks. Oh, and I get a sick week too with you? Wow. So maybe even if I'm not really sick, I'll actually just still just acting like I'm sick here or there so I can have some extra day. You start trying to figure out how to tap into death, how to tap into that which is not alive, to tap into that which is in a hellish situation, because even hell basically is just to be separated from the Most High. See, sin separates from the Most High. Missing the mark constantly and consistently puts you in a place of hell. That's why people aren't dead, but they'll still, or people are not alive, but people will still tell you, even when they're not feeling alive, right? Or I'm sorry, excuse me. People who are alive will still tell you that they feel like they're going through hell. Now, you would say that doesn't even make sense. How can you be alive and say that you're going through something that's supposed to happen after your time on earth has expired? Well, the reason is because hell is an eternal place. It is a spiritual place. If the kingdom of heaven can be in me before I pass away, then why can't hell be on you? Right? I see you, Sister Nadine, like I said today, because of scripture. I'm gonna be quoting scripture, so I'm gonna try my best to use stuff. I apologize today. Hopefully, we'll be able to make it through. Right? I appreciate the reminder, right? So I'm just here to tell you, there's a lot of people who say, "Man, I'm going through hell." Yeah, because you haven't passed away, but it doesn't mean that because you haven't passed away doesn't mean you can't experience it. It's not cognitive dissonance. Somebody says, "I'm going through hell right now." You might be. Who's paying your wages? Oh, is it freezing for anybody else on TikTok? Are we all right? Oh, it was you? Okay, okay. Right? You might be going through hell. Yes, it is possible. And see, watch this. Do you not know that you can be going through hell and still be going to parties? Do you not know that you can be going to hell and still be having sex? Do you not know that you can be going through hell and still, or that you can go through hell and still be the valedictorian? We say, I can't believe that these children are offing themselves, especially at the rate that we've never seen before. Well, number one, it's at a rate you've never seen before because nobody was reporting on it. But also, you can have a child that everything looks great, but if you're not careful, you can have a child that will play in the playground, but if you're not careful, I'm just trying to give you some advice and help you to see something and not keep thinking that, hey, if it looks a certain way, it must be. See, the wages of sin after a certain point, it causes life to be drained. And I agree with you to a certain extent. I agree with you to a certain extent that we should. I agree with you to a certain extent. We should do the best that we can do, but it's the best that we can do something that causes us to keep missing the mark. Sorry, we got loss of signal, of course. All right, y'all are back. Cool. So is so we should do our best, but is doing our best being attached to something that puts you through hell? Will be my next question, right? Is doing our best being attached to something that causes us to have wages that only come from when we miss the mark? See, a lot of people today are going to make a whole bunch of decisions, choices, selling out, selling their soul, all types of stuff. You know why? Because the wages will be right. Now, I would tell you that the wages are never worth selling your soul, but there's a lot of people who if the wages are right, I'll do it. Y'all just think that, and I'm not here to tell you that he doesn't have something that he struggles with to find out who he is or if he's gender fluid, whatever he wants to call himself. But you think Lil Nas X went from like let's do it two ways. Lil Nas X, he was somebody that was supposed to be this hardcore rapper. And then all of a sudden he was like, well, I can be hardcore, but I do some dancing and stuff, but I'm still gonna be, the man, this and that, or whatever. Let's say that he was already, whatever he wants to call himself, right? I don't know what he is technically. So let's say whatever he wants to call himself, he was already that. Then why was he lying to you about who he was? Because he got some wages. How you doing, Shane? Is Israel? Right. Amen. I see you, Shirls. Right. But then let's say on the opposite end, then why did he start presented himself in pink cowboy suits before he finally came out or whatever, and only did so when he got to a certain pinnacle. Do you not think that has anything to do with wages? Whichever way you want to take it. Like, do you not think that has anything to do with wages? And now, even if he's not exactly, even if he's still confused, or if he's exactly or whatever, there's certain things he's doing that he knows are dead wrong, and people know are dead wrong. He's taking it to levels to where it's out of control. But he has to, because he has to defend the actions that he did, because he has to defend the wages, because he has to defend the one who employed him. That's why I said, if I do anything in this life, it's going to help a lot of people to become unemployable. How you doing, Minister Tamara? Right? Not unemployable where you just going to quit your job and you don't have any vision. You don't have anything in place. You don't have anything saved up. You don't know what you're going to do. But I'm going to have it to where people, you can't be bought. Like I said, if I could do this when nobody cared about me, nobody knew who I was in prison. I did this when I was homeless. I did it when I was a single father. I've done it being married. I've done it taking care of my child correctly. I've done it when I was on YouTube before and was getting millions of views on certain videos. I've done it to when I had to start from scratch all over again. I've done this Kofi _ 43 because there's 4 TikTok channels because they tried to take down our channels so much. And I've literally had to go to legal offices to be able to get it to go back. And when I had just nothing but a podcast and Facebook that some people even knew where I was, only a few people and maybe 30 people were watching, women from 10,000 plus, easy. And no, not, excuse me. I got my zeros wrong. 1,000 plus people at a time, 1,400 people watching us at a time, at the same time, 40 something thousand people easy watching us every day, just on one of the platforms we are on. But if I was willing to keep going through all that stuff, even at my worst times, then guess what? You can't pay me enough to change who I am. And if I did this stuff, never, and they did all this stuff to me, never once did I break community guidelines. Never once did I lie. Never once did I bully somebody. Never once. Right? That's why they legally had to put us back on. But if I could do those things, then I'm trying to just show you that now that I'm in a place to where I realize that Yahshua paid it all. And now as a Levite, I realize that everything that I do is via donation. Right? I work for you because I work for him. And if he's not pleased, you won't be pleased. And if you're not pleased, I won't say he won't be pleased. That doesn't always work that way. But I work for you. You see what I'm saying? And that means that I know that there's going to be months sometimes where even though my family is always taken care of, I don't know what's going to happen next. Because that's the lifestyle that I've chosen as far as being a Levite. You're not necessarily everybody's going to live the Levite lifestyle. So you need to make sure you're securing your family. And we still teach those things, right? But I'm just trying to tell you, like, you're going to have to figure out, where do your wages come from? Who's paying your wages? Who's paying your wages? Thank you, Serenity. Bless you, Barak. Right? Who's paying your wages? Who's paying your wages? So yes, it does. They have to take the oath in the industry. Yep. It's at all level stages. Yeah, you got to take an oath if you join the military. You got to take an oath when you spend your money. That's why it says on your money, in God we trust. You got to take an oath when you're rapping. You got to take an oath when you're singing. You got to take an oath when you're acting. How you doing, Sister Latoya? You said your boss? Okay, so your boss is making sure that you're taken care of. Your boss is making sure that you have peace of mind. Your boss is making sure they're not taking half of your check in taxes. You see what I'm saying? Like, you have to start asking yourself, even the wages that you get don't even live what they say it lives. It don't even walk right. See, I don't job out. See, watch this. A lot of people say that they work for their companies, right? But remember, the word, you don't actually go to work. You go to a job. The word job, it indicates that you toil. Let's just get some etymology out the way too, right? A lot of people toil and call it work, but your work is what you're called to do. Your work is what you'll never be. And even if you lose the ability to walk, to see, to talk, to hear, your work is something that never ends. You're always called to it. How you doing, Hayden? The job is something that you toil for somebody else. And can you get some nice things out of your job? Sure, but your job is it's going to break you down. That's why at some point we might as well get you, at least, even if you never 100% get rid of your job, maybe you can work your job less when you learn how to be in your work more. Just over broke. Yeah, that's another saying people use for a job. Just over broke. But even if you got a job that's paying you $100 an hour, there's people. Look, man, I've seen it. I've been in the position to live a lifestyle, 150,000, 200,000 a year coming in. I've been in a position to do that, and I'm here to tell you, it's so much better living what they call the poverty line. Yet I travel more than I ever did. I speak more to people than I ever did. I changed more lives than I ever did. I help people more than what I ever did. I live in my calling more than I ever did. I'm at peace more than I ever was. Yes, I'm on every rising at 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. Every rising. I'm on every evening at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time. And I got a bunch of classes and a bunch of people I have to call and talk to and stuff like that. But I'm more at peace. And I'm an introvert. But when I'm in my gift, that stuff goes away. I'm more at peace than I've ever been in my life. Right? Well, yeah. Money is paper. Not only money is paper, money's not real, right? Money by law is supposed to be backed up by gold or silver. So you're supposed to get real stuff. You're supposed to get land. It's currency. Use it to flow and let it flow from one place to the other. Yeah. So we have no problem with that, of course. You said there's wisdom and grace just enough versus maintaining the heat. Hey, there can be. And by the way, I'm not even saying you can't have a heap. I'm just trying to tell you that before you get the heap, be all right with yourself. How you doing, Melissa? It's a great feeling. Amen, Sister Patricia. Right. I'm sorry. Is it? I don't know. Oh, Elgin. I don't know how to pronounce the rest of it. I'm sorry. Elgin, thanks for being part of the community. Appreciate it. Right? Like there's a peace that should come with knowing who you are. Once you learn who you are, why would you like this is why a lot of people, and thank you for the love. This is why a lot of people never went back into the jobs that they had before when they came out of COVID. Because they were like, I'd rather just be broke at home than be broke running around for you. I've actually learned that it's all right to rest. But see what now the next step for them should be is, well, find out what your work is. So you'll find out what your worth is. My worth is in my work. Therefore, my work isn't what's worthy of me. Only because it's worthy of me because I'm a king, but I'm worthy of being a king because I'm given authority by the king. You see, your worth is in your work. You hear what I'm saying? Your worth is in your work. Faith without works. It didn't say faith and have a job. It said faith and have a work. Death and life is in the power of the tongue. If I speak things that don't live, then I should realize that I'm going to eat of things that don't live. If faith without works, I can believe in something but never actually be in what I believe in. There's so many people that tell me all the time, I'm done with America. I'm leaving America, but you're not going anywhere because you don't think that it's worth the work of actually being in something that's different. Or you'll say, I'm going to go ahead and get my paperwork together. I'm going to be sovereign, but you're not going to do it. Why? Because you're not going to put in the work. You're not even going to learn how to do it right, even if you do it right. There's a lot of people that will say, oh yeah, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to live and I'm going to be private. I'm going to have my own business, but you're not going to go get your own business because you got to put in the work. But then while you're not putting in the work, you're busy telling people why you don't feel like you're worth anything. But your worth is in your work. You can believe that you're worthy all day, but it doesn't mean that you're in something that is worth or worth your time or worthy of you. A lot of people are not living inside what's worthy of them. And thank you guys for the likes and the shares and all that great stuff. If you're on YouTube, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification tab, all that great stuff. Also, too, as a reminder, we had a great start to our French class for the children yesterday who are doing homeschooling and stuff. We did a French class yesterday at 3 p.m. Eastern New York time. Tomorrow, we'll have Solomon's Kung Fu Club. That'll be at 2 p.m. Eastern New York time. So we're excited about that for the children who'd like to join us for that. And then Saturdays, of course, we have Shabbat Beit Sefer, our Shabbat school for the children. So please join us for that. That's at 11 a.m. on Saturdays, Shabbat. Any ages. I think I tried to send you a link yesterday. I don't know if you got it, but any ages, as long as the children. We are asking now that the children have to show themselves, even if briefly, they have to show themselves briefly on the screen to be able to to make sure, because by law, we have to do it, especially if you're using it for any homeschooling or whatever, just in case somebody checks in, we have to make sure that everybody's actually been seen as a child or the child's parent. Okay. Just a reminder, right? You said the girls enjoyed French class. Amen. Amen. My wife will be glad to know that. Oh, okay. 0 to 18. There you go. Boom. Right. 0 to 18 years of age, 0 through 18. Or is it 0 to 18 or 0 through 18? I'm not sure. But there you go. Right. But, and that's for all of the class. Well, I don't know. At least for French class. We'll just say that's for French class for right now. Right. But yeah, you got to know your worth. But a lot of you don't know your worth because you don't know your work. You find somebody's worth in their work. Watch this. I'm a teacher. You'll find out if I'm a teacher if I teach you something. How you doing, Brother Jermaine? If I'm not able to teach you something, it could be that you don't want to be taught. But I'm saying if you're willing to be like somebody who says, okay, let me see what he's doing on the level that he's doing. Let me actually listen to it a while. Let me give him a chance to be able to explain who he is, etc. Then you might find my worth in my work. The same is for me, though. Before you even came in to be taught, the same is for me as well. You might find, I had to find, I knew I had this thing to teach and this and that. And for years of my life, I was running away from it. And then all this stuff. And then finally, I had to go ahead and get in my work and say that no matter what, like, let me see what this is. Let me learn what teaching is. Let me look at other teachers. Let me look at people that don't even believe what I believe, but are supposed to be some of the greatest teachers to ever exist. Let me go around the globe, or around the world, excuse me, and let me find out what people are teaching. Yeah, I share, right? Like, let me find out what these people are saying, and then, like, let me take these things, let me hone them, and then let me make sure that not only am I learning from others, but let me start trying to figure out how to not be somebody else teaching, but be myself teaching. Let me stir up the gift that's within me, the gift that somebody has seen when they knew me when I was little, and even knew my parents, and saw a whole bunch of stuff that's coming together. Let me go ahead and stir this gift up and see for myself. And when I started being in my work, I started realizing my worth. And this is what really helped me. I realized that my worth is not in a job. No wonder they'll only pay me this much. No wonder my family will struggle to pay bills in this. No wonder they keep saying I'm overqualified. No wonder they don't believe that I actually have this stuff in me, because greater is he that's in me than he that is in the world. Do you see? This is what this stuff actually means. You just say this stuff randomly. You're not even looking at the context. You're not looking at how the family of people who wrote it out would think it. You're not thinking about it with any kind of stuff from your culture. But see, no wonder you don't fit into their culture, because greater is he that's in me. I'm not dealing with the same thing they have in them. They're not going to see what I can do exponentially to multiply other people. They're not going to catch it, because it doesn't even make sense to them. It does not make sense to them that somebody such as myself could make more in an hour preaching a word and not even ask and not even be on a payroll, and believe that everything that Yah has for me through his son Yahushua blood has already been paid, and that the Vakakodash would be able to use this vessel, right? And that everything's taken care of. That all I would have to do is stand before you and speak what I'm told to speak, what I've been taught to speak, what I've studied to speak, what I've come into remembrance in. Right, I'm back in membership with who I am, who my people are, etc. And all I would have to do is be who I am. And Yah says, I've already decided that what he's giving, I will give it back to him. My measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, shall men give unto his bosom. For the same measure that he meets, that he gives out, shall it be given unto thee. They don't comprehend it. They say, give in the world, it's give everything that I can, right? In the system, in the beast out there, in your government, in Western society, it is give everything that I can so that I can work twice as much, twice as hard to get half as much. And that's the top level. I know a lot of times we just stop there after we say that, work twice as hard to get half as much, but that's the top. The best you're going to get out of the world is half as much as you deserve. But watch this. When I realize that everything that I get is already paid for, then it's not about what I deserve. It's just about me using the gift. How you doing, Rock Lot? You said that's the anthem? Okay, come on. How you doing? Is it Kid Reek? I'm not sure how to say it. Thanks for being part of the community. Kid Reek. Hear what I'm saying now. Catch this. Put this together. Let this bless you. Let this barakti, right? Let this elevate you. Let this push you. Let this be comfort to you. Remember we said earlier, when you go and you speak for a corporation, if somebody invites me and they say, Kofi, we want you to go ahead and talk to these babies. If somebody says, hey, can you come and talk to these people at our church? Could you come over to our area and just talk to us as a people? A lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times, people have already paid for it. It's already allotted in the budget. If they want me to talk at summer camp, right, at a boxing camp, and I get invited down to a boxing camp, this has happened before, right? I get invited down to a boxing camp. Hey, can you come and can you speak and can you teach? Sure. Now it's already allotted. When I get there, this time is already allotted. They were going to allot somebody a time to speak anyways. Might as well be somebody like Kofi because we see him in his gift. My gift made room for me. It didn't pay for me. It was already paid for. When they saw the gift being used, they said, hey, we already got that paid for. Put him in what we paid for. I don't know if somebody caught that. See, well, I said, they already got that paid for. They said, okay. They say, hey, can you go down to this church, right? 1,000+ people going to be there, 2,000, 10,000, whatever it is. But you come down to this church, can you go ahead and can you preach a word, right? I mean, there's something in you. And I had just came because we came there for a funeral. For this particular situation I'm talking about, we actually came there because somebody had passed away. However, everybody else was treating it like they passed away. When I heard the preacher preaching, I couldn't help it. He was on point. I was standing up. I was saying hallelujah. I was saying that's right and all that stuff way from the back in this huge place. The pastor invited me after the service and said, ask me some questions. Where are you from? This and that or whatever. Oh, okay, you from there? Yeah, they got some great preachers from there. You know what? I need you to go ahead and come back here and preach a word in November. Went back and preached the word, right? And it caused me, because of that, to go all the way over to, I think, not Tampa, to Orlando, and then take 10-hour trip all the way over to basically where Alabama and Florida meet. Preach a word over there. Hotel was taken care of. All this stuff was just taken care of, right? All I did was step in, and then on top of that, right? I'm not going. Okay. On top of that, we were supposed to get. I didn't know this, by the way. I was just like, we're coming, take care of our hotel, take care of our gas, blah blah. Cool. They took care. Not only did they pay for the hotel before we got there, right? So it was already taken care of. You get there, and this is just stuff that happens when you're in your gift. I'm just giving you examples, right? I went for a funeral, being faithful and praising Yah when everybody thought it was death. But see, that's where they get their wages from. But see, I realized that the person who had passed, right? I realized what he had done, and if he had lived his life correctly, I was rejoicing as the preacher was preaching. Why? Because while everybody else was focused on the fact that he had passed, right? I know that's not where we get our wages from. So if he had passed, but he was doing what Yahashua said, Yahashua already paid it all. And so I was celebrating, right? Like he was like, because I knew what was going to happen to him after he passed away. So I was celebrating his life. I was celebrating what he had done. I was listening to his family members say, before I even got there, man, you know, he used to do this in the community and he started off this, and yeah, he had a bad start, and yeah, he was out there and he was in drugs real bad, but man, he changed his life, and he used to take people to this, and he started this in the community, and he was teaching children karate, and he was doing all this stuff, and people loved him. And I was sitting up there excited about what he had done in his life. I was excited about what he had done in his life. See, somebody missed that. You say, oh, well, you're celebrating his death. No, I came there and celebrated because I was excited about what he had done in his life. See, I've learned enough that when people are alive, I give them their flowers enough that when they pass away, hey, you know what? If I was busy celebrating you while you were alive, today is not going to stop. Right? If I celebrated the things that you did every day, it's not going to stop because you're not alive today. And if I'm gonna meet you again, if we're gonna be alive again, if we're gonna meet again in glory, then guess what? Like, I'm gonna celebrate now, just like I'm gonna celebrate when we get together again. And I never even physically met the brother, right? I was coming on behalf of a family. and came there, and the pastor saw that I was celebrating life instead of only being resigned to his life being extinguished. And he said, "Come on and let's have a conversation." That turns into something where my family takes all this trip. And not only did they pay for the hotel room, then they paid for expenses and went beyond that. And then the pastor, who had his own personal um, company, right, where he preached and taught and stuff too, he then said, "You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and double it up. We gave you X amount of finance." He said, "I'm gonna give you double your trouble." See, that's the real Job. That's the real job. That's the real, I toil for this, I better get something. See, that's how Yah works when you're in his work. Even when you're toiling, just be in your work at least, so that at the end you can get double for your trouble. That's the real Job. And so he said, not only did we take care of this, not only did we invite you, not only did we do this, not only did he be a spiritual father to me at a certain point, for a little while, right? But he said, then we're gonna give you something just for coming and making sure that everything that you use is taken care of. But not only that, he said, then I'm going to double it up because of the word that you blessed me with and blessed us with. And although he was making a lot of money going back and forth between two huge assemblies, he was like, "I'm not going to let you leave here, right, empty handed. And then not only that, I'm not going to let you leave here with just barely enough." Right. And that was all coming free because when I came down there, I realized that where my bread was buttered. I realized who the bread is. I realized that I don't worry about somebody paying my wages. I didn't come down there with a 9 to 5. I came down there. I didn't come down there with a 9 to 5 mentality. I came down there. Why? Because when I came down there initially, I was coming down there to celebrate somebody's life, even though I didn't know them personally. I came with a mindset that we celebrate life. I heard the great things in his life. I heard the great things from his family. I said, "Man, this person must be great." And then I got a great word out of it. And all I did was just be myself. And I realized that everything was already paid for. And not realizing that that trip that we had paid for just to be obedient and to celebrate somebody's life was going to turn into what? It all being paid later on, because they already had this money allotted. Y'all had already decided that this was going to happen. He just wanted to see what I work it out. And when I went and I worked it out the way that I was supposed to, my family went and we worked it out together. And we even afterwards were able to have some kind of celebratory stuff even afterwards, right? To celebrate the life of this person that was there and have family members who hadn't seen each other in decades be able to come back with each other and celebrate this person's life. Yeah, I said, I gotta bless it. How you doing, Sister Miko? How you doing, Sister Bullock? Right? Who is paying your wages? Yahashua said, I've already paid everything. Everything is already covered. I got you covered. I've got you covered. I've got you covered. I've got you covered. Well, I don't know if I can afford. I got you covered. I didn't ask you how much money you had. I said, go. You ever had that situation with somebody, right? Somebody invites you somewhere to eat. You know, I've been on both sides of this. Somebody invites you somewhere to eat and you say, "Oh, well, that's great, but I don't really have the money for it right now. Sorry, it's a really nice restaurant. I'd love to go, but me and my family, we just don't have it like that, and I couldn't even just go by myself. So I'm just being honest with you. I thank you. I appreciate you, but I'm just gonna have to say no for right now." And the person says, "I didn't ask you all that. I said, did you want to go?" Right? And what they're saying is like, "Why are you asking me about the price?" If I said, "Let's go," what I'm saying is, let's go. Now, if you can't come because you just can't come, that's it. If you can't come because you don't like, but see, now it becomes even like a thing where you feel kind of like you feel shocked and almost like attacked. Like, wait a minute, so you trying to say that I can't afford it? Or are you trying to say that you don't like me? Or you trying, like, you start trying to figure out, because I didn't ask you all that other stuff. I just asked, did you want to go? Come on now. All I asked was, did you want to go? That's what I asked you. Do you want to go? Right? I didn't say, can you afford it? And Yah has been coming to some of you for a long time and saying, let's go. The commandment in Matthew chapter 28, verse 19 is not, hey, if you feel like it, or if you think I have the power. Matthew 28:18 says, all power in heaven and earth has been given unto me. Then what happens in verse 19? Go ye, all of you, therefore, because I have all power, I'm just telling you, go. We don't need to haggle over prices. You don't need to see if I'm gonna make sure that I cover this or cover that. This we don't have to have an insurance talk. If I said go, why are you still here? How you doing, Tuckwa? If I said go, why are you still here? If I said go, why are you still here? Right? If I said go, what you still why are you still dealing with that? I said start, and you keep talking about, well, I don't know how it's gonna finish. Matter of fact, a lot of times I say it's finished, and you keep telling me why you won't start. What are we what are we doing here? I said go. Because I have all power, I have the right not only to tell you to go, but I also have the right to tell you to go, because if I have all power in my hand, it means that anything you need comes out of my hand. If anything that's going to come out of my hand is provided already before you go, then the question is not can we make it? The question is why won't you go? It's always, why don't you go? Why don't you do it? Well, you know this is going to happen. Or if we don't do this, this is going to happen. I'm not saying that you shouldn't make sure that you plan, but hear what I'm saying. Some of you are so busy planning stuff out or say, I don't feel like it. I don't like it. Look, if you come into who Yah is and and what Yahashua has covered for you, I need you to comprehend. I need you to comprehend. Hear what I'm saying? If you're about to go into the places that Yah has for you, there's going to be some times where you don't know what's about to happen next. Don't let it slow you down. I didn't know, right? When I kept having dreams and visions, and I kept trying to go everywhere else to try and get those dreams and visions filled. Well, maybe if I get enough money, enough people will support me. Maybe if I can get the right job, people will support me. Maybe if I can get the right job, my wife will be happy with me, this and that or whatever. But I had to finally just say, you know what? Let me work this thing out. And my wife always respected me. Hear what I'm saying? I'm talking about my personal view, right? Maybe she'll love me when I start making more money, because that's how men start thinking, because that's how the world treats us. My wife loved me enough that even when I ain't having coming in, she was with me and trusted me and married me and honored me with her presence, right? But in my mind, I'm thinking that once again, my wages come from somewhere else. But Yah already gave you the wife, Kofi. Why are you concerned? If I gave you the wife and I gave you the one who loves you and respects you, why are you looking for somebody else to love and respect you? Can I bless you with something real quick, right? A little personal thing. I say this often, so some of you have already heard me say this several times, right? However, my wife and Yah are the only two people I really worry about making sure they're pleased. I'm not saying I don't care if you guys are pleased at all. Hear what I'm saying? I've learned over my life, if the Most High is all right with it, if my wife is all right with it, everybody else can get along, right? That's including Solomon. That's including my parents. That's including anybody we know. If Yah's all right with it, if my wife is all right with it, it's going to work. Right? And I've realized that as long as Yah and my wife are pleased, everybody else ends up getting pleased. And if they're not, then it's fine, because usually they're not in accordance with the word, or they just don't comprehend what's going on. See, my wife and I are one. So I got to get that right. Yah and I are one. I got to get that right. Yah, I, and my wife are a threefold cord that's not easily broken. I got to get that right. Once that's right, and really not even right, once it's righteous, I don't really care about being right. As long as I'm righteous, stuff fits where it's supposed to fit. See, I know where my bread is buttered. I know I don't get wages from the world. I don't get wages from sin. I get my gift from Elohim. The gift of Elohim is eternal life. I have come that you might have life and more abundantly. Why are we why have we become a people who shucks and jives and hopes that somebody else would give us what we deserve, and they still gonna take away half of what you deserve? You literally work twice as hard to get half as much as even what's promised. If you work and you get 80,000 a year, you get about 40,000 a year. That's just facts, right? That's just facts, right? If you make 100,000 a year, don't get it twisted. The person who's telling you they make 6-figure income, they're making 5-figure income too. They're just making 50,000. See, you make it 50,000, you make it 25. You hear them say they make it 6 figures. You start thinking, man, they make 4 times as much. No, they still only make half as much as you, or half 2 times as much as you, and it's not as much as you think. because they don't get to see it. And then mess around with some of them and they don't know how to, even if they're in the world still and they haven't gotten themselves private and they don't realize that these are statues and stuff, they don't even realize how to make sure, well, I don't even need to be taxed on it. So they get right. So they're go and they get even taxed. And sometimes they don't even know how to deal even within taxes, how to get tax breaks. So some of them are losing more and you're getting the return on your taxes because of the tax bracket you're in. And meanwhile, they're ending up kind of sort of almost evening out to where you live a certain way more of the year, but then they get mad. They're like, well, how does this person get on this vacation? They get to go here. You hear people talk about that all the time at these political parties when they have this banter and these arguments that go back and forth, back and forth. You know why? You hear it all the time? Because those same people having this banter are the same people that keep you guys basically the same, but you don't even know the difference. Just because somebody living better than you for 10 months out the year, tax return comes and they sitting there like, man, they racking their brain. They can't take a break. Meanwhile, shoot, you going on vacations, you're going to different countries. They're saying, how in the world did you do that? Because it's set up that you're going to end up the same. You think that because you make more wages from a sinful state that they're not treating you all in a sinful manner. Oh my greatness. Somebody just, if you caught that, you think that because you're getting paid by the sinner, by the sinful nation, more than somebody else in the sinful nation, that you're still not dealing with a sinful nation. Meanwhile, Joshua said, I paid it all. And if I paid it all, that doesn't mean that your wages increase or decrease. See, watch this. As I decrease, he increases. But when he increases what I have. It doesn't make sense to the person in the world. But I don't care if you're a $6,000 a year slave or a $1 million a month slave. If you're a slave, you're still a slave. Somebody says, well, I prefer to be $1 million a month slave because I can party, I can do this. Okay, at the end of the day, guess what happens? Right? LeBron James got all that money. Somebody still called him an N-word and sprayed it on the side of his mansion or his big house. LeBron still can't open his mouth when Daryl Morey says, hey, China, who's over somebody's country and won't give it back to him, that's wrong. LeBron James has to come out and say, hey, that person doesn't know what he's talking about. He should shut up. He can't defend their freedom. Why? Because he's still a slave. You can be Dwayne Wade, have all this power and everything like that. You still got to bow down to Gabrielle Union and make sure that one of your children will never be the same again. Uh-oh, too much? Right? Sorry. Maybe not sorry, but just saying, like you still dealing with people that are slaves. Look, when I use this, I have to even realize that I'm not allowed to be as free as I want. I have to be careful of quoting scripture because quoting scripture on here, they might try and go ahead and take it down if somebody tries to say I'm trying to use it in a wrong manner. Even though they don't even read the scripture, care about the scripture, or care about the people that they're supposedly protecting me from. Or protecting you from me, whatever. Right? Thank you for the love, appreciate it. How you doing, Taburi? Is it Taburi, Taburai? I'm not sure. Thank you for being on. Right? You got to recognize that you got to ask yourself, who pays my wages? If everything's supposed to be paid for, why am I looking for somebody to pay? Which tree behind me is going to which tree behind me is going to come to your door and ask you if you can eat of its fruit? Mm. Mm-hmm. Which tree behind me now is think about what I'm saying. Just and if you don't get it yet, you'll get it in a second. Which tree behind me is going to come to your door and, hey, Sister Shima, Sister Nadine, um, uh, Minister Joseph, Brother Jermaine, it'd be real nice if you got some fruit today. I need my fruit to be ate so I can go ahead and make sure my seed is going, for generations to come. Or do they just plant themselves? Exactly. You go to the tree. Now some of you are not used to the tree, so you go to the store. But those people who go to the store, hopefully, some of them now just create fruit. or modify it. But hopefully they go to a tree at some points and actually get stuff, where they go to the vine, they get the grape, right? When you get the grape, that's why you have the vine connected to the grape, because they can't have the grape without the vine, right? And so you have to go to the tree, right? The tree has the fruit. The tree doesn't have to do anything but tree, right? The wife don't have to do anything but be a wife. You hear what I'm saying? The child shouldn't have to do anything but be a child. Now, there are things that come with that, obviously, right? The tree has to make sure that it's rooted. The tree has to make sure that it gets nutrients. The tree has to make sure it gets water. But all that's part of being a tree. It doesn't go outside of being a tree in order for it to get what it needs. Here you are thinking that you have to be outside of what's natural. So here you are doing things that don't even make sense. And you're trying to make sure that you get something by doing something that doesn't make sense. Might I tell you something? It doesn't make sense to send your child to somebody that doesn't want to develop your child. Amen. Do what's inherently in you. Why would I send my fruit? You hear what I'm saying? Why would I send my fruit? If I'm a tree, why would I send my fruit? I hope somebody's gonna catch this. I don't even know if I'm gonna say this right. I'm trying. I'm slowing down because the Holy Spirit, or the Vaka, that's trying to really give me something here. Look, and thank you for the love. Why, if I'm a tree, why would I give my? Or let me say it like this: if I'm a tree, why would I contract myself to? Um, why would I sign a contract with a lumberjack? How you doing, WIT? If I'm a tree, why would I sign myself to a lumberjack? Now, I might make some money, but if I end up just being a stump, what was the point of the transaction? I might have made some money, but I end up being a stump. I never grow and I never have any fruit or seed of value. Now, my roots might still be in the ground, right? My roots might still be in the ground. I might be attached to other trees. I might even grow back at some point, but I've lost a whole lot because I become a stump. I got paid for it though. But the lumberjack's going to be the one that's ultimately going to use me, and I'm not going to get anything back. Exactly, right? Like, as a tree though, I could make sure, instead of signing that contract, I could get with another tree, and the pollen, right, the seed and the egg can get together, and we can have life, and more abundantly. Thank you, DXM. How you doing? How you doing, Apostle Jabril? Right. So a lot of us are trees that keep making contracts with lumberjacks. And because you're making a contract and you're getting some kind of money, some kind of fee, you just go, well, since I'm getting some kind of money, I'm getting some kind of fee, it must be worth it. But here you are, a stump. Your growth is stumped. Your growth is stunted. And what happens a lot of times is, once they cut you down as a tree, when you're in your weakest moment, when you're a stump, in order to keep you a stump, then they actually will treat you. They'll actually put some stuff on you that keeps you in the same place. How you doing, Art? Thank you, Sister Nadine. You hear what I'm saying? They have you in a place to where they've cut you down so often. They've cut you down so often. Peep game. They've cut you down so often that you are used to being a stump. And just because a stump is a tree, you think that that means that you are doing what trees do. See, these trees, they call shade. These trees are supposed to drop. Matter of fact, every once in a while, I'll just be sitting here and something from the tree might drop. A seed might drop, an acorn might drop, a squirrel might drop. There's different types of trees around me, but sometimes they drop different things. And if I'm in position, I'll catch what's being dropped. See, if somebody really wants what you're called to give, realize this: real, true men and women of Yah who are leaders over environments. Hear what I'm saying? If people really like what you're dropping, they'll come underneath the tree. Somebody gonna catch this. Look, let this word bless you today, right? If somebody really wants, as big as this is, as tall as this is, If somebody really wants an apple, they'll come and they'll wait. Um, in a place that we have up in Baltimore, right? In a place that we have up there, um, when you go over there are trees. There's different types of trees, but especially there's two mulberry, well, three mulberry trees, I think, but there's two main mulberry trees. One in the front that gives like white mulberries, one in the back that gives black mulberries. And when it comes time for the mulberries to fall, I don't have to really. You could go out. I mean, they're so easy to get off. You could shake them, or you could accidentally brush them with your hair as you're going up and down, or whatever. But a lot of times, you could just lay out a tarp, and they'll fall about 2 or 3 times a year. And then you could just lay out a tarp and just start catching all these mulberries. I don't even have to work that hard. If I would just be in position, I could catch with the trees getting ready to drop. And now I've got a bunch of stuff that people pay all this money for, that if I really wanted to, because I was just in position, I could just give out and then have some, even where it's so much that people might say, can I purchase that? Can I get that? Can I support that? Where'd you get that from? Wow, okay, that's awesome. Can you teach me how does this? How do y'all live like this? Blah, blah, right? Just by catching it. See, somebody doesn't comprehend. If you were just in position to catch something, so many people are in position to tell you how to do something. Why would you doing that, right? Will you be in a position to catch it? I praise y'all, right? For even those that have left SOC for whatever reason, right? And I praise y'all for what they're doing. I see how they're doing stuff, and I see them trying to do some stuff sometimes that's they've learned, but they're not quite ready for it. So it's not really manifesting into what they think it's going to be. And I say to myself, man, I wish, and I'm not speaking of any particular person, in any individual. There's many over years, right? So hopefully you're not assuming I'm talking about this person, that person, whatever. Maybe you are. What I'm saying is over time, I've seen so many times that happen, and then people end up either coming back or they end up falling short. And I say to myself, I'm not all that, but you know what? They didn't catch everything yet. Or they saw that fruit was growing, but they got it before it was. See, if you try to get the mulberry too soon, it's gonna be hard. It's actually gonna hurt you. It'll even hurt your hand. It's like prickly, kind of, sort of. But when you get a mulberry, when it's right, it's soft, almost to the point to where it's almost like you feel like you're going. If you touch it just a little too hard, it's gonna squeeze too much, right? And it's very juicy and all these different things, right? But I'm trying to tell you, I'll be sitting there and I'll be listening to people who are saying, and I'm like, man, you know what? They didn't catch it yet. If they had just stayed there longer and just waited to where it was ripe enough where it'll fall to them. I've done that before. I told y'all this before. I used to be so upset and so frustrated with the Most High. When is He gonna let me start preaching? When am I gonna be a pastor? I know that I'm called to be a pastor. I'm my early 20s. When is He gonna let me do this? When He gonna let me do that? I'm in my mid 20s. When? And not realizing that it was about 30 years old where stuff started to launch for me, and not even launch in number, but when it started to pick up, I started getting opportunities to preach and to speak. Then a little bit after that, started getting into social media. I think like 2014, 2013. Oh wow, okay, I guess so, about 10 years ago. So maybe I was yeah. So all this stuff starts launching, and I'm like, man, like all this stuff is really happening, and then stuff starts to grow. But in our culture, you can't even be a rabbi until you're 30 years old. So I was trying to push something, and all I should have just done is catch. So here I am talking bad about this, and when I get my chance, I'm gonna do. And nobody gets it, and nobody wants to listen to me. And see, blah blah. And it's like, hold on, bro, slow down, slow down. You're not even in position yet. Catch you a little something. So now I realize when I'm in some of these positions, I'm like, when is it? I start saying to myself, okay, maybe it's not time. I'm supposed to be a tree. You planted me here. It's not time for you to uproot me and to try and sow me into another ground yet. So what is it that I need to get from this? Or if I'm a little tree underneath this bigger tree, what is it that I'm supposed to be catching? Or I'm supposed to catch something. I just open my arms to it. You show me what I'm supposed to catch, and I'll try to receive. How you doing, Nicole? Thanks for being on. And thanks for the love. You see, like we're so busy trying to force it. But once again, who pays your wages? If Yah has already paid it all, No matter if you're the big tree or the little tree, no matter if you're the tree that people catch from or the tree that's being caught. Matter of fact, you should always have a tree you're under. You should always have somebody you're being discipled by. You should always have a pastor. You should always have a spiritual father, a spiritual mother. You should always. That doesn't go away. You can be 100 years old and still need a pastor. How you doing, D. Brew? Or you can be 100 years old and still need a pastor. Right? You can be 50 years old and still learn from a 25-year-old. Now, they shouldn't be a rabbi yet, but you hear what I'm saying? They can give you a word. How you doing, Sierra? I wonder if we would start realizing that our wages don't come from the world because Yahashua paid it all. Where would we be? And if we would just be obedient to the one that's already paid it all, then maybe everything would, in fact, be paid for. If I go out to eat with somebody and they say I got everything taken care of and this and that, when the person, when the waiter or the waitress comes to the table, even if I'm the pastor, if somebody else has paid it all, if somebody comes to the table and says, "What do you want?" I look in the direction of the person who paid it all. You know why? Because they're in charge. If they say, "Pastor, go ahead and do whatever," I say, "All right, thank you so much. I'll go ahead and look at blah, 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 blah." You know, because they paid it all. So if they paid it all, I know where my bread is buttered. And if they paid it all, I'm not coming there with an attitude. I'm not coming there talking about, well, you know, even though you paid for this now, I'm Pastor Kofi, and you better make sure that you listen to me. You pay for it. You in charge. I didn't show up looking for wages from anybody else. I didn't do anything. You hear what I'm saying? I didn't show up looking for wages. I didn't show you paid it all. If you paid for it, then what am I talking for? Thanks for the love and how you doing, Savage. Look. I got children. I got babies. I have babies who I love very much. And sometimes, and look, I'm very big on being vocal and saying, babies, y'all need to speak up. Y'all need to talk. Y'all need to say what's on your mind. But sometimes, look, daddy paid for this. And you just gonna have to deal with this today. Dad, I don't want to eat the. If you're not gonna eat it, you're not gonna eat today then. I'm sorry. That's unfair. I mean, it is what it is. If I let you get what you want to eat 280 days out of 365, then you're going to have to work with me some. Because if I let you eat whatever you want to eat, hear this now. See, some of y'all like want to get your wages because your wages in sin means that you can do whatever you want and not realize that death is quick behind whatever you want. But see, Yahweh might say, well, sometimes I know you're not going to eat your vegetables. Sometimes I know you're not going to be disciplined. Sometimes I know you're not going to spend money correctly. So guess what? You're gonna have to make it without money for a little bit and learn how. Sometimes, see, you 70% of what you see every day is nature, but you still don't know how to forage. He said, I might have to take some of that stuff away so that you're put in a position where you have to forage, because there's coming a time to where bread is going to be, the cost of bread is going to be out of control. There's coming a time to where you're going to be talking about $6 and $6.50 and $7 for some eggs. There's coming a time to where you're going to have meat that's being printed out that you don't even know. There's coming a time to where KFC is going to admit to you that their nuggets are not even real. There's coming a time to where you're going to eat seedless grapes and they're going to tell you it's organic, and you're not even going to know that the definition of organic just needs to mean anything that kind of sort of was alive at some point. He said, I might have to take some of this stuff from you. And when it gets taken, you sit there and you're so hurt and frustrated and you think you're cursed. And in reality, he said, this is a blessing. Everybody else can't go to the store during COVID. And when they go to the store, you got to wait in a line that's 2, 3, 4 hours long just to be able to get inside and then be told that what you can get is limited. So you still can't really eat what you want to eat and get what you're accustomed to. He said, meanwhile, why don't you become accustomed while they're waiting in line 3, 4 hours, learn how to go foraging for an hour and get just as much food as what you were going to pay $150 for. Learn how to get just as much from what I already provided for. Everything that you need, this is your store. This is your storage. He follows his own word. Bring ye the tithes. He brought the tithes into the storehouse that they were by meat in mine house. So that when COVID shows up, all you got to do is go out to what I already sowed into the ground. And if you would be so awesome to, if you would be so delighted to, if you would be so obedient to, you could be ye holy as I am holy, and just take what I've grown and bring it into your house so that you don't even have to come out here if you don't want to. Once again, though, who pays your wages? Everything that I think, I got to go to the store for this, I got to go to the store for that, I got to get this from here, I got to get this from there. Well, that's what you're doing. And then you're trying to figure out why it's so hard to get real food. You don't even know how to look real food. You got real food all around you. You're not a cow, but if emergency came, you know you could chew on grass, even if you couldn't swallow it. You know you could chew on it and get some nutrients. You could take dandelion. Dandelion is one of the greatest things for your blood. Some of you talking about high blood pressure. You're talking about you can't breathe. You're talking about, you got parasites, all that. Get some dandelion and some dandelion root in your life. Make some tea. Right. This is what Yah's saying. This is what Yah's doing. This is what Yah's giving us. He's giving us an opportunity to do it on this level. You see, you think the store is a higher level than what Yah's created. That's why you have a hard time with it. You can't tell me you have no parks, state parks, national parks. Well, I can't pick anything from there. Okay, fine. Go somewhere. Well, I can't pick any. Yes, you can. You could knock on somebody's door and ask permission. Some of you guys live in places where people have trees and stuff that just grow in their yard anyway. Just ask from time to time. Hey, would it be all right if this month could I come here once a week and just get like 6 apples out of your tree? Would that be all right? Right. Or you could go outside here and just find out what's what. There's technology. Now you still need to be trained, but there's technology on your phone. Just pay a little extra. Y'all, some of y'all paying $150 for stuff that you don't need. Some of you paying for Netflix and I don't even know all of them. Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Showtime, HBO, all this. You paying for all these different things, and you could just say, you know what, one time, let me just go ahead 1 month, be all right with those things. Let me pay a little extra for some of the best of the best of the best apps, so that I can go out here and take a picture of something that I see, and then look at it, and it'll tell me everything I need to know about that plant. And if I'm not sure, because you still should make sure that you're trained, you got somebody at SOC, Elder Meyer, that does classes, let alone you could call and talk to, and maybe sow a little bit there too, just one time, and say, hey, you through your business, can you teach me a little bit about something? I took these pictures. It says these things are for this. Is there anything I could do with these on a regular basis? I got like 10 pictures. I got 20 pictures of these things. Could I do different meals or different things with this? If you could teach me how to do that one time, I'd be so grateful. That way I know that when I want to make this meal, I get my own meal prep of what's already growing. And I'll just go outside and go to the grocery store and I'll eat. You see what I'm saying? Like you could easily do. There's very few things out there. I mean, you could eat bark if you know what you're doing. You could at least chew on it. There's not too many things that you cannot eat, and even if they're poisonous, there's a lot of stuff that we even had to do when we were in chattel slavery, where you had to learn how to eat off things that were poisonous. So you had like poke salad. You had to learn how to make sure that you cooked it correctly and got all of the poison out, but you could still eat it. Chitlins weren't the only thing we were trying to figure out how to eat that was poisonous. And hog head cheese and all that stuff, and pig feet and knuckles and pig behind and all that stuff that you had a lot of stuff that was around you that you figured out how to eat. I mean, mushrooms, y'all figured out. Now you better be careful with mushrooms. If you don't know what you're doing, mushrooms can really mess you up, right? So all these things. If nothing else, we don't even think about what you touch is food, right? And like somebody was saying in the comments, I'm not coming against him or anything like that, but like somebody was saying in the comments, even just, we say this all the time, stand in the grass, get in the sun, put your hands up like this and see what happens. After about 2 minutes, you'll feel the happiest you've ever felt. I said 2 minutes. Now, if you're melanated, maybe you might have to go a little more, but usually 2 minutes is about it. Some people start smiling after 15 seconds. The only problem is where you live, they spray everything you use. Yeah, that's true. So that's why, once again, either grow your own stuff, or maybe you have to go somewhere where you know it's not sprayed. You'd be surprised. But I guess you can look it up. Some of the national parks and state parks and stuff that you would think they spray everything, sometimes they don't spray a thing. Go there with a bag like you go into the grocery store. Like when you go to these stores and you buy those bags, and make sure that you can have a bag and you don't have to keep buying the plastic bag or paper bag over and over and over again. Take a couple of those bags and you'd be surprised what you'll be able to find. And even if they're spraying, it depends on what they're spraying it with, of course, study, right? But when you find out what they're spraying it with or whatever, some of those things you can still wash them out. You can soak them long enough and still be able to get those things out, right? So like you'd be surprised. Now I know, right? So this is one of those things where legal and lawful come into play. Some of the places they would say, well, it's illegal to go here and just pick whatever. But it doesn't mean this for educational purposes only. I'm not saying you should go do this. I'm not saying you shouldn't, if you get my drift, right? But I'm not saying you should, right? However, if nobody sees me picking something or whatever, and I know that this is something that belongs not only to the state, but it belongs to my tribe, it belongs to this, it belongs to that, I'm gonna get some food. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is what it is. So I'm just saying, right? But there's a lot of stuff out here that you'd be surprised. There's stuff that's always growing on the side of somebody's house. There's stuff that sticks out in between sidewalk cracks. There's all types of stuff like that. Yeah. And for real, everything that's been sprayed in the grocery store is still better than what the odds are better. Like if everything in the grocery store is sprayed anyways, you might as well. That's what we talked about yesterday, right? I remember we were saying if you already have assumed that I'm dangerous, then I might as well be armed with something. That we weren't talking about just physical weapons. We were talking about armed with knowing who you were, this and that, whatever, right? But if you're already going to say that I'm dangerous just because of how I look, then I might as well be armed and dangerous. Well, if you're already going to spray everything in the store, then I might as well go outside, because if everything's sprayed in the store anyways, there's probably a better chance that I'm going to get something that's not sprayed, right? Like if you're going to eat apples from the store, if I got to scrape wax off it before I can eat it anyways, I might as well try, to see what's going on with the apples that are at this Wendy's over here. And literally, I mean that quite literally. Like there's a Wendy's at one of the spots that we go to from time to time, and it's got a big apple tree in the center of it. And so nobody thinks about going there because nobody even notices the apple tree. But my wife does. So every time we go to this Wendy's, right, every couple times a year, we might be going through this one spot. Guess what we're going to end up with? We even showed it to you guys on the live before. If you remember, one time I showed you guys like a bunch of apples. I think I might have been wearing the same chemise, and I had it, and I was trying to show you like I had them all like this in my shirt and everything, and I was trying to show them to you, and my wife had just picked them. Yeah, like nobody else even thinks about it. So the people that are there, they don't even think about spraying the tree. They don't even think about spraying the tree because, like, who cares? They don't even really tend to the grass. It's like a what would you call it? An island or whatever they call it when they have those in parking lots, and you have the separated the divider in between where you park, but it's like it looks like it's curbs on both sides, and then in between is grass, and you might have trees growing out and stuff. And right in the middle of that is an apple tree. Nobody even knows or cares. Maybe they know, but they don't care. They don't stop it. They don't spray it. They don't do anything to it. They just let them grow. And they don't grow to like these huge sizes. They grow like, like this is big for that particular type of apple tree, but they taste great. And we know they're pure. And we keep the seed. And at some point we plan on growing them, hopefully on the land that we get. Right there in front of you. Or how much wild lettuce grows right in between the cracks of the street. You walk down the street or you walk down the sidewalk and you see wild lettuce. You could pick it up, clean it up. You got food. How many places? Everybody sprays for dandelion, tries to get rid of dandelion, but when you find a place where there's a bunch of dandelion growing, it hasn't been sprayed yet or whatever like that, they haven't tried to get rid of it and all that. Hey, start grabbing dandelion, a whole bunch of it. Matter of fact, have it to where they don't try to spray the dandelion. Get all the dandelion you can and pull it up. If you don't eat it all or whatever, dandelion can be bitter. But if you don't eat the dandelion or use it for tea or whatever, if you can't use it all, give it to somebody else. But pull it so that they don't start saying, "Oh, we need to spray for dandelion," and that way they'll let it there. I mean, I'm just saying, there's different ways to do this thing, right? How you doing, Hustle Russell? How you doing, Renaissance? Right, but we have to get out of this position of trying to think that everybody else pays our wages. The store is not the only place to get food from. Before there was a Giant, before there was a Jewel Osco, before there was a Safeway, before there was a Shoppers Food Warehouse. I don't even know if that still exists. Before there was a Piggly Wiggly, before there was a Costco, before there was a Sprouts, before there was a whatever, before there was a Walgreens, even before there was a Costco, before there was a BJ's, before there was a Sam's Club, there was this. Before it was already there. How you doing, Sister Viv? It was already there before. You get it? Before there was all the stuff that you were thinking that you couldn't live without, it was already there. Yeah, it's a scam, right? And they've been playing tricks on you for a long time. You think that what's been here the whole time is something that you can't get outside of what somebody controls. And you think it's extremely difficult to grow food. You say you got to have a green thumb. What's the color of your thumb have to do with how seed works? You see what I'm saying? Right? Take pineapple. When you cut the top of the pineapple off, keep it, sit it in some water, let it start to root down. It'll start even growing up above it a little bit, but let it start to root down in the water. Once it's rooted enough and it's ready to go, put it in some soil, let it grow up, and then you'll have a pineapple grow out of the top. That's one less pineapple you have to buy. And what you'll find is when you start growing your own food, you start getting addicted to it. Like when you start realizing that you don't have to go to somebody else for something, and out of your belly, so to speak, out of what's in you, out of the kingdom of heaven that's in you, out of the nature that's in you, out of you being connected to the nature outside of you with what's in you, you'll start saying to yourself, I don't even want the stuff that they get at the store. You said you got 4 pineapples growing on your patio right now. Yeah, from one store-bought pineapple, right? Because you start realizing, and watch this, you'll start learning stuff like patience. They say patience is a virtue. You'll start learning stuff like patience. It doesn't take that long to get some heirloom seed, turnips, and make power greens. Put it in a cup. Get 12 cups together. Start to grow them, right? And start after they start sprouting up. Make sure you're careful so you don't yank the whole thing up, but just take off the top and eat it. Go to the next cut, take it off the top and eat it the next day. And that's what you're paying when you pay for power greens. That's what you're paying for. Eat it out the cup. And then what you discover is you're medicating yourself as you're getting better and you're getting healthier doing that, right? You'll also discover that by the time you get around to cup number 1 again, when you eat number 12 and you look at cup number 1, guess what's happening? Cup number 1 is ready to go again. And then cup number 2 is ready to go again. And then cup number 3. So just like you do your meal preps, you could be doing your meal prep like that. It's not even that difficult. You know, why not? Why if I'm gonna buy my wife a rose, guess what I started growing? I grew a rose bush. I don't have to cut those off and cut off the nature of them. Now we can use them if we want to use it for medicine, or if she wants to use it for tincture, or if she just wants to be able to smell her own roses, she's got it. Yeah, a pepper. I mean, you get all this stuff. We use it, but you get all this pepper, all this seed, and we don't think about using the pepper again. You know, you get this eggplant, all this seed. You don't think about growing eggplant again. Oranges barely have seed in them now. If you can find seeded oranges, it's almost a miracle nowadays. But you get all these oranges, don't think about seed. Some of you are blessed to be able to find grapes with seed in them and don't even think about, man, it's so difficult. I'm probably not going to find this again for like 6, 7 months. I should probably just save every grape seed and do the best I can to grow a grapevine. You said you just grew your 3rd pineapple. Amen. Yeah, see, like these are things that we can do easily. But once again, who pays your wages? You don't think that Yah's natural law supplies your every need. Yah didn't just say, I will supply all your needs according to my riches and glory in the spirit. He didn't just say in the spirit. He said, if I give you a pineapple, it turns into 4. You know, if I give you an eggplant, it turns into a bunch of them. If I give you a tomato, all you got to do is cut. When you're cutting your tomato next time for your sandwich or for your salad or whatever you're using it for, cut a thin slice and put it on. You don't even have to bury it that deep. You should put it probably maybe like 3 to 4 inches underneath the soil or something like that. But you could even get away with just cutting off a thin slice and just laying. You don't have to prep it. You don't do anything. Just cut a thin slice of tomato and put it on top of the soil and just put a little bit of soil over it. See what starts happening. You see, like it's a principle. Yah says it's already paid for, but I keep going and trying to figure out this wages thing. How many pineapples can I buy from you guys? Oh wow, pineapples are kind of expensive, or I like pineapples a lot, but okay, you know what? I'll just go ahead and I'll just come here once a month and buy a pineapple. But I could buy 1 pineapple and I can get 4. One Scotch and Barney turns into 10 pepper trees, right? I could get 1 apple and I could have apple trees. And apple trees can grow everywhere. Some of it, yes, I can't grow this because of where I live. Okay, well, some of it can grow even in just the summertime, where you're at the springtime in summertime, right? But also, some of you have places where you can grow stuff all year round, and some of you don't even think about just growing stuff on your balcony, in your house, in a room, next to the window. That's where we started. First garden for us started in an apartment on a place that gets the most sun, the window that gets the most sun, had a sun lamp as well, and everything was growing on an IKEA, 2 IKEA shelves. Bought 2 IKEA shelves, almost as tall as I am. I'm 6'5.5". Bought them. I guess they were both maybe about 6 feet tall. Put everything on there. That's where our food. That's where our garden started. Did that before we had a house. Had a garden before we had a house. Had a garden before we had land. Couldn't do it on the apartment complex land. So we wanted to eat stuff that we knew what it was, or even at least try some stuff out. Any ganja idea? Mm. Right. I'm just saying, anything that Yah has created, he said that it's created to supply all your needs according to his, not yours, according to his riches and glory. He's eternal. He doesn't stop. If he plants one seed in the ground, it can become a forest. If he plants one seed in the ground, it can become, watch this. If he plants one seed in the womb, it becomes a child. Whatever, he can plant one seed in the womb and it can become triplets. They become twins, triplets, quadruplets, quintuplets, sextuplets. I don't know what 7 is. What is that? Septuplets? One seed. He can plant one word in your belly and you can become somebody that preaches on a regular basis for hours at a time. Once again, what are we talking about today? What is the theme for today? Who pays your wages? If Yehoshua paid it all, why do I keep looking for everybody else to pay what's already been paid for? Yeah, there you go, right? People in Africa growing apples and stuff like that, and they're millionaires. Now, all it takes is a seed. See, what is the seed that he's planted in you? There's something that you give that when you start developing it and it makes room, it's already going to show you what's paid. See, watch this. The people who are making millions because they're growing apple trees, they didn't create the dollars. They just used the gift and grew the tree. Right? See, stop doing things worried about the dollars. Grow the tree. That's what I was saying earlier. If somebody asks me to come and speak for them and I go to speak for you, you already have everything paid for because it was already allotted. It's already paid. I'm not showing up because you coming up for the money. They're not printing up money or trying to come up with money just for me. They already have a budget. And they say, since you have the gift that meets the criteria of what we've allotted in the budget, come on in, Kofi, and speak a word. That's how it works. There's millions of dollars out there for your vision. The question is not whether the millions are there. They already exist. Yahashua paid it all. He already put something in place specifically just for you. And he put something in you specifically just for the gift to be paid for, not the gift that he paid for to be used. Now, the question is, will you develop the gift so that it makes room for what he's already given? See, the problem is we reverse this. We keep thinking we need to go into a place where they'll give us more money. But Yah says, stay where you are and use the gift and allow the gift to make more room. I reminded in my head, some of you may or may not know this story, with Montezuma, with King Montezuma, when the Spanish came, they wanted gold. Finally, he said, okay, I'm going to give you gold. He walks into a room. And basically, he takes, I forget what color it was, but he takes what we might equate as that's chalk, and he marks. He starts marking, but he's marking up high. And what he tells them is, he says, we're going to fill this room, right? We made room for you, all right? And I have it to where I'm making a mark. Why? Because as high as I mark, somebody's going to catch this in a second. As high as I mark, the people who are going to bring in the gold, they're not going to stop bringing in gold until it hits that line. See, your gift makes room. And Yah has already said, there's a room for your gift. I need you to make room, right? Watch it. Or your gift is already guaranteed. The gold is there. I don't need to create gold. Gold exists. See, I don't have to create gold. Gold is. I already made it, right? What I need you to do is walk into the room and make room. Like if you got to take stuff out the room, look, I know that's your little bear that you had, and it has sentimental value, and you had it since you were 5 years old. He said, I need you might need to just, I'm not saying you got to throw it away, but you might need to just chuck it out the room for a second. It's not important in this moment. I know that you're holding on to trauma, and I know you're holding on to this and things like that. And the trauma, at least, even if the person that was in your life that caused trauma, at least you have some memory of this person that said that they loved you, whatever. But I might need you to take that, and I might need you to go ahead and chuck it out, right? I need. There's somebody in there. Well, I've got this table, and it's really nice, and it's really fine. This armoire is really nice, and it's really fine. This china cabinet, it's really nice, and it's really fine. But he said, I'm not worried about your china cabinet right now. I want to fill up this room with this gold, with this gift, and I'd like to come in and start marking off where it is, but you got too much stuff in here. I can't even get to the wall. I need you to relieve yourself of some items. I need you to relieve yourself of some people. I need you to relieve yourself of some ideologies. And once you do that, I'm going to come in the room, and I'm the king, and I'm just going to come in, and I'm going to mark it and give. See what you've given. See, now that you've given me an opportunity, you've taken these things out of the room. Now that you've decided to give me those things, you've decided to give me that little bear, that little thing, that little nostalgic trauma that you had, that little armoire, that little desk, or whatever it is. Now that you've given that up, those relationships you don't need anymore, what I'm going to do is, now that you've made room, I'm about to come in and just mark as the king a line. And it's not going to stop filling up the room until come on, somebody. It's not going to, the servants that I have come and give, and it shall be given unto thee. Elohim's measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, shall men give into your bosom. I've got a bunch of people that are ready to serve, but they're waiting for me to indicate in the room where the line is, but you haven't made room for me to tell them the command to fill it up. Right. So people are waiting to give you a gift. Some of you right now sit up here and go, man, you know what? I really like to be able to, I don't know what to really do with this stuff. I got all this stuff here. I don't know what to do with it. There's somebody who's waiting around with stuff literally in their hands. Like, man, I don't know what to do. Well, I guess we'll just leave this in here. I would throw this away, but I'm gonna go ahead and put it in storage. Something's telling me I'm gonna need this later. I don't know what it is for. You ever had that inkling? Come on now. You ever had that in you? Like, man, you know what? If Kofi really, Kofi been talking about this and talking about that. Hopefully they get this together. So I'm gonna hold it. I know some of y'all are. I got to get better at some stuff too myself, right? I got to make room too. I'm just saying, there's somebody out there, man. You know what? I really. So somebody's out there with a blessing with your name on it, right? Where somebody's literally sitting there saying, man, I don't know what this is, I don't know why I'm holding on to this. I really don't need it. It doesn't really even go with my house. It doesn't go with my shoes. It doesn't go with this. I'm just, I'll hold on to it. Maybe somebody will need it. Somebody out there, right? And y'all saying if you would make room for it, he's ready to come in and then start making an indication, a mark around what you made room in, right? Once you made the room for the gift, he's ready to start giving. Come on, somebody. If he's ready, your friends and family are sitting there holding on to stuff. They haven't even told you that they got that thing that's worth $5 million. But they won't, but they don't want anybody to know. They're waiting to see. There are some people who have treasure in their house and won't even tell anybody because they're sitting there saying, I don't know if anybody would value this the way that I would value this. And so I've kept this, and I know this will make somebody rich, but it's something that means a lot. So I don't want to just give this to anybody. If it's gonna make somebody rich, it's gonna make somebody rich who I really believe in what they're doing. There's always somebody like that. There's always somebody like that. And they're just waiting. Like, okay, I've been waiting for this one person with this vision, with this goal, with this mission. That's all. I've just been waiting for this person. There's somebody out there waiting to just give it to you. All they want to see is your works. Faith without works is something that is stagnant. I've come that you might have life. But what you're doing is so stagnant. He's waiting on you to make room. And he's just gonna come in. How you doing, Brother TJ? How you doing, Sister Judith? That's what happened. Montezuma, he finally said, all right, I'll give you the gold. And he said, make room in here. Why? Because I'm coming in here and I'm going to make an indication. And everybody who serves me will now end up serving you. And they'll serve you the gold, the gift, the thing you've been waiting on, your reward. How you doing, Sister Marcia? Right? There's somebody who's just waiting to serve you. Look, there's somebody who wasn't even going to listen to this today. But guess what? I was just here. I was just waiting to serve you. There's somebody who's just waiting, who has something that you need, and has been waiting for you to show up. And y'all's been and we've been looking at the wall. But he says, don't come in yet. We've been looking at the wall, but he says, don't come in yet. They haven't made any room. And then once they finally make room, he comes in, he starts marking. He says, okay, start bringing in what it is I told you. He said, you have so much stuff. You're trying to put this shoe on. It fits, but I have a problem tying it to put it on. Amen. You hear what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of people who are out there who are ready to give, who just have stuff that they're ready to give. There are people who are minimalist, who got too much stuff. They're just waiting. They're just waiting. But he says, you got to make room so I can walk in and mark it off. Could you imagine how awesome that was? Somebody thought they knew how rich Montezuma was. Right? Somebody thought they knew how rich Montezuma was until Montezuma went in there and started marking. And they probably were like, what are you doing? I've never seen. See, sometimes y'all will start marking off where your blessing's going to be. And you said, I've never even seen somebody do this. Doesn't even make sense. And they didn't realize that he was showing them that this is, then they got greedy, of course. But I want you to at least see the context of this. They got greedy, of course, because they realized, well, wait a minute. If he's got enough to fill up a room on request, he must have more, because this can't be the first time that he filled up the room. How you doing, y'all's child Tabitha? Right. They said to themselves, they said to themselves, wait a minute, if he could walk in the room and just start marking it off like it's nothing, they said this can't be the first time. You hear what I'm saying? This can't be the first time that he's done it. And y'all's getting ready to mark it off, and when he marks it off, you're gonna be sitting there like, this can't be the first time. If he did it once, like if he's doing it like this must be who he is all the time. But this is when we start thinking with royal sense and no longer think with common sense. And many of us think like commoners, and commoners, unfortunately, look at things that don't last as if they're the end all be all. People who are royalty realize true royalty. Now, there can be people who are royalty and still have common sense. But if you have royal sense, you get to a place where you stop looking at, like watch this. There's somebody out there who sees a seed and just says, you know what, maybe I can, you know what, it's just a seed anyways. I got to get ready for my job. Somebody else whose work is in the natural environment sees a seed and says, I might be able to turn that into, you know, $10,000. The same seed has been seen, right? The same tree it manifested from. One person sees something for the temporary, one person sees something for eternity. There's somebody who sees a woman and says, wow, look at those hips. Somebody else sees and says, I think that's a wife. And I'm qualified to be a husband. Let me see if I can go ahead and give her my bona fides and see if she actually appreciates them and if what I am as a husband would actually work with what she is as a wife. And now two become one. Somebody else says, can I hit that? Somebody else says, can I make her happy and secure and give her affection? Mm-hmm. Right? It's the same thing I'm seeing. But see, once again, who pays my wages? See, the person who pays your wages here, who treats you like trash, will allow you to have stuff that makes you think it's okay to treat her like trash. But the one who's paid it all already and paid it all for you, sacrificed himself and loves you past your own insecurities and imperfections, would allow you to love somebody and pay it all for somebody and make sure that you love them past their own insecurities and imperfections. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. It's very true. There's somebody out there who sees something in you that's more powerful. Watch this, than even what you see in yourself. My wife saw somebody who was barely making it, not making that much money, not doing this, not doing that. And she said that I saw greatness in you. And said there was a voice in her head that said, if you don't talk to him, you will not be something, you will not be happy. And then I realized that really I'm the one that doesn't deserve her and wants to make the rest of my life all right with somebody who spoke a word into me when I was at my lowest. Yeah, I was still talking, I was still preaching, I was still helping people, I was still doing what I was supposed to do. I was in my work, but I was not feeling like a king. And here comes this queen who said that I'll see the king in you, even when everybody else just talks about you like you're meaningless. See, somebody might see nothing in you, and all you need is somebody to see something. Like, give me a glimpse, right? Now, what if you get somebody who sees everything in you? That's Yah. Well, if you can find somebody that at least is looking to see everything in you, that's another level. That's another level. See, and so once again, who pays your wages? My husband is a narcissist. Probably was a narcissist when you first got together. Why did you allow him to pay your wages? My wife is promiscuous. She probably was promiscuous or flirtatious before you got together. Why did you go ahead and let them pay your wages? Now you're in a relationship where you got to figure out how to help them to realize that their wages don't need to be paid by that, but that the gift of Elohim is eternal life and that Yahashua paid it all. But we could have just made sure we squashed all that at the beginning and said that, hey, just because they can pay your wages doesn't mean that they're not sinning. Because no matter how much, oh, well, you know what? I'm not dealing with anything now. It's all right now. I can handle it now. Yeah, he be looking at girls like that, but I'm the cutest one. I'm the hottest one. I'm this and that. Okay, if he got with you just because of the hips, and just because of the bust, right? And just because of the walk, and just because of the toes, and just because of the hair, and just because you was a freak and all that stuff or whatever, there comes a time to where, yeah, you might not be those things anymore. And those things are not exact, and you're not the best at all those things anymore. Were those wages worth it? I'm so surprised. I can't believe that he would leave me, blah, blah. He only got with you because when he paid the wages, you gave him everything he wanted, even if you knew that the wages that when he was giving you stuff came from a sinful place. Yeah, you said not all money is good money, as your father used to say. Yeah. right? There's a lot of people, I've told you this before. I could really be making a lot of money on YouTube if I just said, you know what, I'll just go ahead and start letting them, you know, um, I'll go ahead and do the AdSense thing again and advertise. But that's how the YouTube channel went down last time. Because if you get AdSense, if you let them advertise on your stuff, then basically the advertisers are in charge. And if they don't like what you're doing, they'll lie. They told me straight up. They told me that the reason that they took us down is because that not the UN. Who was it that works for the UN? It's some group that works within the UN, basically responsible if everybody was getting the jab. They said that they didn't like what I put on there, and then as soon as they gave me that message, in 2 days I had 3 strikes on videos that I had up for years, and now all of a sudden don't have the YouTube channel anymore, right? So this time I had to make a decision. Are you going to do AdSense again? If you do, you can make a lot of money, but you're gonna have to be like, y'all think I'm careful with what I say now. You're gonna have to be really careful with what you say, because these companies ain't playing. They're coming for you. And what if something's supposed to be for Patreon, but you use YouTube to be able to get it on Patreon, and then you accidentally make it public, so nobody was really supposed to see it, and therefore it was not supposed to even be on there, and you weren't supposed to make sure that there were any ads attached, but you accidentally, just doing so many videos, you put the same thing on with the same thing, right? And now next thing you know, here they come saying, we don't like that you said this, we don't like that you said that. You have to make a decision, right? I could get my wages paid, y'all. Like people don't believe me when I say I could get, those of you who think I'm balling, which I'm not, but if you think I'm balling, I could be really balling out here, especially because a lot of you don't know this. I wouldn't necessarily get paid because of how many people follow, subscribe, or watch a show. I would actually get paid by how long people watch my stuff. And therefore a lot of people don't get it. See, I make 3 hour, 4 hour, 5 hour videos. I have some shorter ones too, but I make 3, 4, 5 hour videos. That means those of you who watch, even if only, what I think yesterday's video is up to only like about 170. If 170 people out of that, let's say 70 to 75 of them watch the whole thing, which is extremely great, by the way, but watch at some point the whole thing. Or even if somebody doesn't go 3 hours or 4 hours, then yes, 4 hours. Maybe somebody just goes an hour. That's an hour of time, to where if I put some commercials in there, right? And I just put, okay, every 15 minutes there'll be a commercial. So some of you who don't pay for commercials won't see it. Some of you, every 15 minutes you'll get a commercial, right? And you still would hang in there because you might like the content. So every 15 minutes I could be getting a whole bunch of stuff and getting paid. I don't need a million people to be able to get paid really easily. But I have to make a decision. If I do that, then it means that some of the stuff I do, it can't be really taught on, right? So I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision. And how you doing, Jennifer? I didn't say so already. And you're gonna have to do the same thing in your life. You're gonna have to start making decisions, right? If Yahshua paid it all, I'm gonna trust him. And if not, I just got to look for my wages. But the wages, they come with sin. They come with missing the mark. Somebody else gets to tell me. See, watch this. When I worked for the military, I loved y'all. However, if I was going to pray in the military, I couldn't pray in his name. Yeah, unless you have sponsors that support your message. That's true, right? But even with that, you have to be careful, because YouTube ultimately is the one that says whether we're with your sponsors or not. So, but I could do some of that stuff. But even with YouTube, I have to be careful. There are some people that have been asking to put stuff on here. I just haven't found the right stuff. And I do sponsor you guys stuff anyways, just on the low. Right? If you've been paying attention, I put stuff out there from time to time, to where even if you don't know what exactly that is, you can ask a question like, I see this thing keep popping up, and you keep mentioning this, and people will text me and stuff, be like, what were you talking about? Right? But once again, who pays your wages? If the person paying your wages, see, watch this. One person says, I paid it all. I want you to be free. I want you to have free will. I want you to love. I want you to have great relationships, all that. But then the other person says, hey, I'll pay your wages, but it's going to be sinful. And like I said, see, when it's paid, I don't expect anything to come in. I also don't really expect anything to leave. It's already paid for. When I'm looking for wages, I've got to do whatever it takes. And I'm so in your mind, see, watch this. In your mind, because you get a lot of wages, you're thinking that, hey, my bills are being paid, and you'll just bow down to whatever. How you doing, Gregoria? And you'll bow down to whatever. But you don't recognize if it's already been paid for, then I'm not looking for anything to come in. The wages of life is what I've been talking about for about 2.5 hours. So I may or may not be able to go over the same things over and over again, but we haven't recorded if you're actually interested, right? We're kind of coming up on when we take our leave, but I'll probably talk about some of them. I'm already talking about some of them now, right? But you see what I'm saying? Like you have to get to a place to where who pay, like, watch this. If Yahashua already has paid everything and I've decided to go with him, then I'm not worried about anybody who pays my wages. But here's the flip side. If I'm going to go ahead and pay my wages, if I'm going to go ahead and give up my time, I'm going to give up family time, I'm going to give up study time, I'm going to give up prayer time, I'm going to give up teaching time, I'm going to give up time to be taught, I'm going to give up time to even give, time to give into my business, all that, because I've got to make sure that I get 8 hours, some of you 16 hours in every day, at least 5 times a week. What time do I have for what's already paid? This is the trick, is to get you to think that you should work for or you should job for what's already in your work. Remember what we said earlier? My worth is in my work. At the end of the day, the job might help things that I need in this moment, but my worth eternally is in my work. I can't disconnect myself from my work. I can't retire from it. At least not on this end of Zion, or this, or before the transition goes from Zion in me to me being surrounded by Zion completely. I can't retire from my work. When I'm walking, well, you know what? I'm not going to declare that over myself, right? When I'm 150 years old, I can't retire from my work. Thank you for the love, appreciate it, right? When I'm 75 years old, I cannot retire from my work. If it ever gets to a place to where my wife's going to have to feed me, I can't retire from my work. If I ever get to a place where I have to figure out a machine and how to look at stuff and still be able to develop a sermon and still figure out a way to be able to talk to people, even if I have to look at the screen because my mouth doesn't work, I can't retire from my work. My worth comes in my work. Everything that I am comes from my work. No, Yahweh is everything that you come. Exactly. He gave me the work. If he paid it all, he also paid for the work. He also paid for the gift. All he says for me is to make room for it. But you have free will. How you doing, MK Nairobi? Thanks for being on. But you have free will. And this is the part that people don't like. You have to be accountable. You don't like it when people hold you accountable. You don't like it when y'all hold you accountable. But if he paid it all, remember what I said earlier about the table? If somebody invites me to a restaurant, I'm not going to walk in there and be like, hey, especially if they say that I've already paid for everything, everything's straight, don't worry about anything. When I walk in, I don't say, okay, cool, you know what, I'm in charge, this and that, or whatever. If the waiter comes, look, I know everything's paid for, but if the waiter says, would you like this, would you like that? Even though they said they paid for everything, guess what I'll still do? I'll look over at the person who's paid for everything. Why? Because you paid for it. You in charge. If they say, go ahead, Pastor, do what you do. Go ahead, Pastor, like it's already paid. Matter of fact, if I look at them, they might say, they might say, hey, just whatever he wants is what he's going to get. They also might say, well, you know what? I did pay for everything. I said you can get whatever you want. I do need you to make sure that you do this, that, or whatever, though. They paid for it. Now, at that point, if I disagree with what they're telling me, I could get up and walk away. But if you get up and walk away, then you get up and walk away from what's paid for. Did you catch it? You can walk away from what Yah has for you, but you walk away from what's paid for. And a lot of you think that because you can get some wages now, that you don't need him, until you realize that it leads to a bed where you're going to close your eyes for the last time. And when you open them up, you're not going to like what you open up to. Now, all of a sudden, you're trying to make sure that you go to the one that's paid for. Just stay with the one who paid for it all. Just stay for the one who already told you when they invited you and you said, I don't have enough to be able to get in here. They said, I didn't ask you if you had enough. I told you to come. I told you, let's go to the restaurant. I didn't say, could you afford it? I said, do you and your family want to go? I didn't say, do you want to afford it? Or can you afford it? Might I say something about you and even about me that will make people think that we have big heads about ourselves and that we haughty and high-minded and all this? But I'm gonna just can I keep it real with you as a king, and keep it real with you as another part of the branch of Zion who is royalty? Can I just keep it with you? Can I just keep it real with you? Sorry, real quick. Watch this. One of the things that you will start to learn as you walk this journey, one of the things that you will learn is that people can't afford you anyways. I'm gonna leave. See, I hope nobody gets mad at me. I didn't say that nobody should bless you. I didn't say nobody should give you a donation. I'm not saying I'm not thankful for people who donate to myself or to SOC or give to my wife's business or give to your businesses. That's not what I said. What I said, what you're gonna learn is when you go down this walk, don't worry about who's paying you because they can't afford you anyways. If I'm giving you what the King of Kings is giving me, you can't afford it. Uh-oh. They don't like teaching like this. This is real. This is real. If I'm giving you eternal word, you couldn't afford it anyways. There's not enough pats on the back you could give me. There's not enough money you could put in my pocket. That's why you can't get me to sell my soul. Because how can I sell my soul if the one who created my soul and allowed me to write my soul and to make sure that my psychology was correct has already paid it all? You can't afford it. The Messiah gave every last drop of his blood. Gave every last drop of his blood just for me. You need to think about that with yourself. He gave every last drop of his blood just for me. Put yourself there, just for you, just for Maya, just for Solomon, just for Nadine, just for Miss Hibiscus, just for Sierra, just for Tianya, just for Michelle, just for Cream, just for Jermaine, just for who. Put your name there, just for whomever, just for Nadine. He dropped every blood. So guess what? There's nothing that you can give me that makes it more priceless. If it's priceless, it's priceless. I am Yahweh's wife. The Bible tells me that in order to be a wife to a great king, because we always start at Proverbs 31:10, read Proverbs 31:1-9 first, where this is a story of a queen these are basically words that a queen is saying to her son to make sure that her son realizes that he's going to be king, and she, as a queen, she realizes that her son is going to need a wife, right? A virtuous woman. That's what the context of that conversation is that you're going to need a virtuous woman, a woman who represents you and the Most High well. And so therefore, she starts saying this. And then verse 10 says, who can find a virtuous woman, and begins to describe what she is. Well, if I am married to the Most High, right, and the virtuous woman is more priceless than rupees, then guess what? I'm more priceless than rupees. Right? I'm more priceless than rupees. That's the way it works. I'm sorry, you said, is it okay to consciously stay somewhere where they only take advantage of you? Well, conscious is a real weird word to get into because people don't want to go by the Greek form of it, but I guess I get the overall implication and the overall question. If somebody's trying to take advantage of you in anything, right? First of all, I'm not worried. So watch this. Many people take advantage of me. Let me go ahead and say it this way. Many people take advantage of me. I'm not doing things according to what their results are, though. So many people come to me and they see we're doing something, or they see SOC is doing something, or whatever the case might be, right? Yeah, I know you're into the Amun-Ra thing, and you're thinking the same as Aman, thinking that Amen is the same thing, even though it would actually be Aman, and Aman actually is a word that existed before, and that Kemet and Yastel are actually cousins and actually are married into each other, and that many people are there. And then we're going to get into the netjers versus gods, because that's going into the whole different discussion. So yeah, but thank you for that. I appreciate it, right? But back to what I'm talking about, right? Because we actually know some of that stuff, so I appreciate it. I just can't. I just want to let you know I get you, amen. And everything's going to be. I got to make sure that I tell you that Kemet is where everything came from, and this and that. I get it. All right. So I'm just letting you know I'm with you. All right. However, However, there are a lot of people that try to take advantage of me. If we can actually get to like the theme of it, because we can get to a place where we're arguing about stuff and we're not actually looking at something that betters us, regardless. Because whether we disagree or agree on this, our diaspora is still in trouble. All right, and we need to become greater. That being said, many people come around me because they think that whatever I'm doing is going to get them somewhere faster. There's something that we call the 3 C's. I didn't come up with this. First person I heard to speak on this is TD Jakes. I don't think he's the original person to come up with it either. But nevertheless, something called the 3 C's. You're going to run into people that are confidants. You're going to run into people that are constituents. You are going to run into people that are comrades. That's just the way it is, right? 3 C's: confidants, constituents, comrades. 3 C's, once again: confidants, constituents, comrades. And this is how that works. If you're looking at this constituent, the confidant first. The confidant is somebody that's for you, right? And who pays your wages is what we're talking about today, right? And so the confidant is somebody that's for you. There are many people who are doing things, but they're not necessarily for you. I'm sorry, not just, yeah, I said it right, for you. So when I say for you, what I'm trying to say is that there are people who are, even if you don't like what they're about to say, they're for you, right? Even if it makes you feel bad, they're for you, right? Even with people who are trying to do certain things, they're for you, right? These people are for you, right? And you'll find very few people. If you find 5 people in your life who are for you. I didn't say 5 people a day or 5 people a season. I'm talking about if you can find 5 people in your life who are for you all the time, confidence. Like I can give you confidant energy today, but it doesn't mean that I'll live around you, right? So I might not be able to be a confidant even if I give you confidant energy. We can have a conversation on the phone and I still not be your confidant, right? I really, if I be honest with you, I probably have 2 true confidants, meaning like I can tell you everything. And I know that you'll be there for me. And even if you need to tell me something that I don't want to hear, you'll still be there, right? I only have really like 2 right now in my life. So a confidant is somebody that's for you. Then comes next C, right? The next C is a constituent. A constituent is not for you, but a constituent is for what you are for. And if you're not careful, they seem almost exactly identical. You'll think that they're identical. You'll think they're the same, right? But a confidant is not the same as a constituent. So a constituent is for what you're for. So you'll hear a constituent talk like this. A confidant might say, man, you know what? Like, it's cool. Let's chill. Let's do this. I got you today. Hey, man, you know what? I can't roll with you tomorrow. And I think you need to go ahead and spend some more time with your wife. Like a confidant might speak like that. You might be like, who are you talking to? A constituent will say stuff like this. Man, I love being around you. I appreciate you so much. You know what? Like, you make me feel great. You do all these great things for us. You cook and you clean. Even when I'm having the worst of days, you always make me feel better. And that sounds great until you realize that they haven't said anything about what I'm sowing to you. Now, constituents who are for what you're for, constituents will still have all these different things. Thank you, Eric, for knowing that you have books that are older than dirt. That's great, right? I don't know what that has to do with, as far as just because you have an older book that means that I should respect it more, that is part of my culture, but I don't know where this is going. But hey, I guess it doesn't matter as far as listening to somebody, seeing where they are, or saying that if I don't listen to everything you have to say means whatever. So I appreciate you. If the moderators, I see the moderators already kind of talking to you. If you've decided that you're better than everybody else, so you don't need to listen, or that what we're saying, you don't even see where we are, because you might catch more, bees with honey than just like trying to set the hive on fire. But it's up to you. You know, I don't get that, right? It's hard to even have conversation because you're trying to take over. Nevertheless, right? So where was I at? Oh yeah, nope. See, I apologize, y'all. Give me a second. I'm thinking about the bees comment I made, but that's not where we're at. Oh, so you have constituents. So a constituent might even sow into you, but only as long as they think that it'll get them where they want to go. That's where I was. A constituent might sow into you, but only as far as where they think that you're going to get them where they want to go, right? So if you're looking at a constituent, right, you got to realize that a constituent is there as long as a constituent is there. Hold on one second. Man. So a constituent is there as long as you're going to get them where they need to go. So, for example, this popped up. Well, I'll use that for the next one. But constituents, basically, you'll have people that are there for what you're for. So I've had people in the past that I've taught, that I've helped, that I've listened to, that I've changed things up for, whatever, and they did very well, right? But they found another pastor, or they found another path, or they found another group, or whatever, and because maybe somebody would pay them, or because somebody would give them a chance to do more, or they thought that they could do what I was doing better, or whatever the case might be, they might leave, and they got everything they needed, so they think, from our relationship. No problem. Like, let them go. That's a constituent. They're for what I was for, but they're not necessarily for me, which is cool, right? You don't have to be for me. Not everybody's a confidant. You shouldn't have a bunch of confidants. If you have a bunch of confidants, then something's wrong with you, or something's wrong with your situation. Because it's like that whole Facebook thing. People got 7,000 friends on Facebook. They invite all 7,000 friends to the wedding, and then 2 of them show up. Because just because somebody's your Facebook friend, right, and even all 7,000 might say great things about you on Facebook, it doesn't mean that they care about you. This is why I say all the time, I'm so glad that for us, this is not just virtual, it's becoming reality, where we actually know each other, we learn from each other, we call each other, we talk to each other, we pray for each other, we meet each other. We look at a meeting up with each other, we're looking at getting the same land with each other, our children are growing up with each other. This is stuff where it's like, it's not just virtual, it's becoming reality, right? So we praise Yah for that. All those things being said, right, there's constituents who will do their best. Confidants are for you, but constituents are for what you're for. So once they find they can get somewhere faster, they out. And by the way, I'm not mad at it. So you shouldn't be mad at the constituent. You shouldn't be frustrated by it. You shouldn't say, I don't want any constituents. Just realize who they are. They cannot be in your inner circle. You hear what I'm saying? Like, a constituent is not going to be in your inner circle. That's just real talk. A constituent can't, if you put them in your inner circle, your stuff's gonna fall apart. So I'll let you close even, but I can't let you in the inner circle. Why? Because you're not for me, you're not for SOC, you're not for the kingdom necessarily. You're for what getting you closer to what your goal is. And as soon as you find another way to get there that's more agreeable with you and makes you feel more tingly inside, then you go there. That's the reality. That's the reality. Right? And so I'm not mad when there are people who are constituents. Matter of fact, while you're here, if you're going to use this to get where we're trying to go, guess what? We're going to go ahead and use the very best that you give us so we can continue down the path we're trying to go. And will we both shake hands and say no hard feelings? No hard feelings. Because I knew what you were when you came in. I never made you a confidant when I knew you were a constituent. I never confused you for a confidant. You're for me rather than a constituent. You're for what I'm for. So you have confidants that are for you. You have constituents that are for what you are for, but then you have comrades. Now, comrades are against what you are against. They sometimes can be confused for constituents, sometimes even for confidants. Why? Because a comrade is against what you're against. So what I've said before is like this. You guys remember Donald Trump? And everybody was against Donald Trump, and everybody still is to a certain degree, but everybody was so anti-Trump, anti-Trump, anti-Trump. We got to get rid of him. He's a racist. He's this, he's that. He's a liar. He mistreats women. So all these people that couldn't stand each other, they became comrades. They were comrades in arms. The focal point was Donald Trump. Everybody must get Trump. Everybody must get Trump. And I was warning people back then, and a lot of it came to light. The truth came to light. But I was telling people back then, hey, you guys are getting into relationships. I was telling people behind the scenes and everything. I was telling people, hey, be careful. Be careful these relationships you're getting into. Be careful these people who you're starting to walk down the road with and trying to develop this stuff with and trying to protect and acting like they're for you. And now you got all these allies. And remember, allies are not the same as family. Allies are not the same as people that are in your nation. They have other priorities. And when war happens, you sign treaties with allies to make sure that the allies don't have to do but so much. And sure enough, everybody came against Trump. And once Trump was gone, and once January 6th thing dissipated some, it was only a matter of time before the people who were comrades and were willing to fight against Trump, they started going at each other again. And people who were racist, but they thought that Trump was super racist, they started locking people up again. Right? Y'all know about the story about T. Nathan. If you don't, look up T. Nathan Lokius and what they did. Some of them who were supposed to be his friends did to him. There were people who got together. Remember, it's T. Nathan Lokius, and what's the girl who he ended up buying her business and stuff, and they were being really crazy, going back at each other. And T. Nathan is my friend. So I'm not, it doesn't bring me any pleasure to talk about him or whatever. T. Nathan, what was the girl? Goddess Maya, whatever her name is, right? And she and him started, after they finished making Trump their focal point. All of a sudden, they started fighting against each other. They were both in the same group, and they were supposed to bring this, and now all of a sudden it was, well, T. Nathan is a black man who don't know we talking about this and that or whatever, and Goddess Mia is a this and that or whatever. And then guess what happened? Like, she ended up getting put out on some things and make to look really bad, and some stuff she was doing behind the scenes got brought to light. Next thing you knew, to get revenge, she starts going with finds a woman who a white and forgive me, I'm not even saying this to be wrong. I'm just trying to show you, if you want to look it up, a white lesbian woman, I can't remember her name, who worked for the CIA or had connections to the CIA, starts talking to them. And T. Nathan, who was doing a lot of stuff that nobody had a problem with, but he was traveling to places and he was helping people. He was doing stuff. Nobody had a problem with it up until now. Now all of a sudden, Goddess Mia has sicked the dogs on him. And guess what happens? Out of that, like all of a sudden, hey, he violated his parole. Now that's on him ultimately, but nobody cared about it up until they started having this comrade issue where now they weren't comrades anymore because they had a defeated foe. So now all of a sudden she gets with somebody else who supposedly, if you listen to her talk, would be our enemy because she's locking us up. But she don't care about that right now because now the person that was her comrade now is just straight her enemy. And he made her look bad, but she didn't realize that, hey, and he didn't realize, hey, y'all have a comrade. Yeah, T. Nathan, he sometimes had different colored beards, right? So that's what happened. And so that happens. They lie about it. They get him locked up or whatever. He tries to do one more thing, even after he got out the first time. He tries to do something that basically is still going to help the community and stuff like that. They own him like a hawk, lock him up again. He ends up being away for a year. Now he's had an interview where he's actually since came out and talked about all the particulars. So if you want deeper details, I didn't catch the interview. I've been trying to find it, but I can't find it. But yeah, if you really want to see what happens with comrades, those are people that were on TikTok, supposed to be friends, I don't know if they met in person or not, but supposed to be people that were really working behind the scenes. I had talked to him behind the scenes. And T. Nathan, like I said, I consider him to be a friend, and I think he was done dirty in the process. But there's some things in there where it's like, yeah, but you were dealing with comrades. Like, this is what these people are. This is who they are. This is what they do. Like, you got to think about comrades. Right. So that being said, like I was saying that not to him necessarily in person, although I was behind the scenes, we would have disagreements and stuff, and he would say where he stood, I would say where I stood, and we still were homies, and it is what it is. We might disagree, but we move, and we still had the ultimate goal of our diaspora being taken care of. So, but I'm just trying to tell you, right? Like those comrades are people that you said, do I still keep in contact with military comrades? Some, very few, and very rarely, right? Because a lot of them don't have the same beliefs that I have, or not trying to work towards the same thing. I still respect them though. A lot of them are getting to the point now, years in, where a lot of them are out or about to get out. But I'm just telling you, you have some comrades, and comrades are not for you. That's a constituent. They're not for what you're for. I'm sorry. Comrades are not for you. That's a confidant. Confidants are for you. Constituents are for what you are for, and comrades are against who you are against. That's how you have people, for example, we've all seen this happen in some way, shape, or form, where you might have, let's say, I'm gonna just use as an example. This is not to come against women. This is just an example that we've seen, right? Let's say you have a friend that you know, right? And this friend is going out with a guy. this guy has just broken up with a relationship with somebody else that he was with. So this guy he was with, so your friend was with this girl, right? Him and the girl broke up. Now you got a new girlfriend. All right, cool, whatever. That's your business. All of a sudden, you start realizing that, this ex-girlfriend starts talking trash about your friend. Happens, whatever. The ex-girlfriend also starts talking trash about your friend, and all of a sudden, the new girlfriend starts talking trash about your friend. Maybe he's bad, this and that. I don't know. Then all of a sudden, the ex-girlfriend and the new girlfriend are now both ex-girlfriends who talk trash about your friend. And that keeps up for a little bit. And then all of a sudden, the first ex stops talking to the new ex. And the new ex now has no boyfriend, nor has no new friend. Right? They got together because they were against the same person. And so some of the fights that you had against this guy, right, they sound similar to what some of the stuff is. And if you get mad enough and you allow somebody who's not even in your relationship to talk, guess what? Y'all become comrades. Now he's your enemy. Don't talk to her like this. But she's doing this. She won't let me see my child. I don't care. Don't talk to her. See, you're disrespectful towards me too. Next thing you know, you got a comrade. But once you leave and you no longer have the same enemy, and that enemy, that man, is now he's treated like trash too. You got a comrade, but comrades, they're not designed to last. They're just designed to go at somebody. So if you get in a relationship with a comrade, hey, you might need a comrade, so you think, to get stuff done. Fine. Once you finish getting that stuff done, realize, like was said, somebody asked me the question: do I still talk to my comrades or former, military service members who were my, not just my shipmates, and not just, former devil dogs, and not just, former soldiers or airmen, etc., that were in, right? Not former bunk, but even my bunkmates, even those people who I was in the trenches with, so to speak. Yes and no, like, because a lot of them, all they were was comrades. Some of them, we didn't even like each other. Some of them would call me the N-word 7,000 times a day. But when it was time to go to war, hey, we got to have each other's back because both of us got to make it home. But now that we don't wear the same uniform, and now that you're not fighting for the same thing, we were comrades. We had to do what we had to do. I don't need that in my life anymore. So ultimately, when somebody asked the question, that's where this all started from, was, hey, if somebody's walking all over you, should you let them walk over you? You need to know who people are in your life. If somebody's a constituent, don't let somebody walk all over you per se. You're not a doormat. But if somebody's a constituent, if they're going to be using you, then you use them. Now, I wouldn't get in a marriage. If we're talking about like a marital relationship, that's a waste of time to get with somebody that you know is going to end, because you're not confidants, you're constituents. That doesn't make sense. My wife is, so Yahweh's my number one confidant. So if you want to go outside of human beings, I guess I have, like, I guess you could say 5 or 6 confidants, right? But if I were to say Yahweh Elohim is my confidant, right? That's Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. If I want to say that my wife is my confidant, my son is my confidant. Outside of that, I do have a spiritual father, spiritual mother. I still don't necessarily know if I would tell you they're a confidant. My spiritual mother, maybe, right? Just keeping it the buck. But also, too, you got to be around. So that's what I'm saying. You might have some people that even give confidant energy. Don't confuse them for confidants. Like, I appreciate all of y'all that are on right now and always will. I can't always be there for you, though. So I can't claim to be a confidant, even just by, like, relationship. I'm not always 100% available. So I can't claim, like, confidant energy. And sometimes stuff that I need to tell you, I cannot tell you because of not being a real confidant. Right? Like, there are some people that if I were to tell you in person what I tell you online, y'all couldn't take it. So you wouldn't even be able to be my confidant, because not only to be a confidant do I have to be for you, but you have to be for me. Right? So you have to be able to tell me about me, but I also have to be able to tell you about you. How you doing, Joseph? You said someone you can tell anything to is a confidant. Not necessarily it. Someone you can tell that. That's not the only thing. But yeah, that's a big step in it for sure. Where you can trust somebody because they're for you. Right. Well, thank you for that, Sister Nadine. Right. So I'm just saying it has to be something to where it goes both ways. Right. Or else you could just be a constituent or a comrade. So I'm saying all that to say, but once again, who pays your wages is the theme. Whoever's paying my wages is how I'm going to look at it. See, a lot of you guys think that your husband is a confidant because he pays bills or because you have nice dates, so you try to make him a husband. But you never thought to yourself, does he even know how love languages work? It's always amazing to me. People get into marriage and I start asking questions about things that you would think people would study. Like, okay, you talking about marriage. What is marriage? Is sex marriage? Marriage is sex. People are like, I don't know what that means. Okay, do you know what it is as far as a private contract versus the contract with the state? I don't really know what that means. All right. Do you know what it is as far as do you know when we're talking about marriage? Do you know certain things like the five love languages? Dr. Gary Chapman. I don't know what that means. Okay. Do you know something as far as like the six basic human needs and what the woman's one and number two need and what the man's number one and number two need is? I don't know what that is. Okay. You see what I'm saying? Like, but we say they're confidants. I can keep on going. Have you at least read the book? Somebody brought it up earlier. Have you read the book, Men Are From Mars, Women From Venus? It's not somebody's necessarily in our culture, but there's a lot of great stuff you can learn as far as even the scientific methods that we should probably use one with the other. No, I have no clue what that is. It gets to be a while where you're like, well, why did y'all get married if nobody even knew whether or not you were a confidant, right? Do you know somebody's culture? Do you know what comes with the person? No, I don't really know my culture. I don't even know my language. I don't even really know myself. But we had two people that are supposed to be married and becoming confidants. You see, we have a problem. We have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. You said it's marriage what reflects Elohim's image. Um, Marriage is a reflection, if we're going to talk about what it's reflective of, is a reflective of our relationship with Yahweh, right? Yahweh is married to us. We are married to him. We are not independent of him. He is not independent of us. We are not dependent on him. He is not dependent on us. We are interdependent. If we comprehend what that is, relationship is with him, our relationship with each other is fine, right? But once again, who pays your wages? Even when it comes to your television shows, and we're getting ready, we're getting to the place where it's almost time for us to take our leave. Even in your television shows that you watch, if you're of a certain age, and depending on what you watch, right? I don't know how many of you watch Saturday morning cartoons, but that started to be a thing in maybe the late 80s going into the 90s, right? There were always cartoons and stuff out, but as far as specific, they were really like honing in on certain types of cartoons that they started really honing in. And it's 11:11, if you're listening, babe. Um, if you were to look at those things, remember, even in your cartoons, and they were filling our heads with so much stuff. GI Joe, Captain Planet, Gaia, Greece, right? There was also witchcraft in there. That's where you get earth, wind, water, fire, and instead of saying spirit, they say heart. You remember they had that stuff? You remember you were watching stuff where you didn't want to be human anymore, and you were watching people slice people up, but you wouldn't watch blood. You would watch robot parts. You called it Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. All that stuff. You remember She-Ra and He-Man, both of them were under the power of Grayskull. There was a lot of stuff. Care Bears, where it was some weird stuff going on, and they were making a promise of the rainbow out of their stomachs, and we could totally see a lot of stuff that kind of led to Transformers, Lionel, and all them, and Thundercats. Yeah, there was a lot of weird stuff that they kind of just started throwing on you on a regular basis. I mean, they had weird stuff in there before, like Bugs Bunny dressing up like a woman was crazy. Um, that was a little weird. All of them wearing white gloves. That whole thing about they didn't want black hands touching white things, and so if you know, even though the original Bugs Bunny, he was a he was supposed to basically be voiced and supposed to be a black guy, but he was funny. It was kind of like a black face thing, and when his face would explode, he'd have the watermelon face and all that. There's a lot of stuff, but in that particular time, the 80s, 90s, they really started picking up on really putting some stuff in there that was vile. And one of the things that somebody brought up, I can't remember who this is. I was listening to. They brought up something that was very interesting. They said, hey, did you ever think about? It might even be. This might have been Joe Rogan or somebody on his show. Not sure. I listen to a lot of stuff. I think it might have. It was on the Joe Rogan Experience. I don't know who it was. It might have been Joe Rogan himself. He said you had a Care Bear. Care Bear stare. I didn't really watch the Care Bears, but so I could be maybe off on some of the stuff. I don't know. I know Care Bears had the Alice in Wonderland movie and stuff, and when I've heard people describe it and stuff, I was like, oh, there's some interesting thing in there. But he was saying how, and you once again, you're aware of this stuff, but you don't know it. He said when you think about those times, and they actually it wasn't Joe Rogan. I don't know who it was. Anyways, there was somebody and they were talking about, and you had a show and you had these people be like, after these messages, y'all remember that? We'll be right back, right? And you have all that stuff on there. And what was the first thing that you would see on there after they put all this wild stuff in your head? What was the very next thing you were going to see? After they hit you with all that stuff and were putting all that stuff in, and you were supposed to be getting a break in these messages, they didn't give you a break. There were people who paid wages, the wages of sin. These people paid wages. And what would they fill your head with? All these people who paid wages, they would fill your head with what? Think about it now. What's one of the worst things? They told you say no to drugs. They told you not to smoke weed. They told you don't listen to people who are trying to tell you about natural medicine and things like that. Exactly. But the first thing that you would see is what? Processed foods. You would see sugar, cereal. Immediately, drugs. Immediately, they drugged you out. They made us druggies. They made us think it was all right. They made you think that tree shavings was cereal. They told you the tree shavings with food coloring and sugar all over it, and then put some milk on there that you're not even supposed to drink. We are the only species that keeps trying to drink milk after we are adults. They say, do something that's not even in your nature, right? With the milk. This stuff, by the way, if you want somebody to have high blood pressure, guess what you should do? You should give them, I don't even care if it's healthy cereal. If you want somebody to have high blood pressure, give them some cereal, give them some oranges, give them some even oatmeal, and yeah, give them some orange juice or apple juice or something like that. Start their day off. Give them some coffee. Start their day off with that. See what happens to their blood pressure. That was the first thing when they said, after these messages, and it'd always be something weird, like the fire hose would be singing, and then he would spray the dog after the dog had peed on him. I mean, it was always something odd, but they would bring you into 3 minutes or so of nothing but drug him, drug him, drug him. And then buy this toy. You're watching G.I. Joe. Buy the G.I. Joe toy and drug them so that they start getting in their mind that if I play with this toy, that's really like some really perverted, wicked stuff that I'm watching. And they're trying to get me to say, watch this, G.I. Joe. Be a real American hero. And everybody who's not with America is a snake. They're the devil. Watch so much of that. So guess what you do? Join the military or support the military. Why? Right? Because they taught me lessons. Now I know, and knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe. Y'all remember that? Like that was something that was supposed to be there every time. And then you had make sure you're eating the cereal. Matter of fact, you were watching and eating cereal at the same time. You was drugged out and you couldn't wait for the next one. And you were sitting up there drugged out. You thought that that's how you were supposed to look as a child. Now children's supposed to have fun, but you ain't supposed to be sitting up there like that's what you look like. I'm sorry to make that face, but y'all know that's what y'all look like, right? You were doing stuff like that. You were all over the place. You was messed up in your mind. You were not supposed to be acting like that. You were not supposed to be acting like that. You were not supposed to look crazy. You were not supposed to be like, yes, children yell and they have energy and stuff, but you ain't supposed to be drugged out. But they had you literally out there playing with the toys, addicted, thinking that the addiction that you were having was actually becoming real life. What I'm addicted to is actually becoming real life. You were tripping. And then here comes the next show by Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Same thing, right? By Care Bear stuff. Same thing. Cabbage Patch Kids comes with a birth certificate. based off of something that where they used to show pictures for hundreds of years before they started selling you the Cabbage Patch Kids directly. They would have these Cabbage Patches where they would have all these pictures and stuff from different countries to where the children were getting put into labor, getting you ready for labor, sending you to school to get ready for labor. Cabbage Patch Kids, all this different stuff. I'm just trying to tell you, it was thing after thing after thing. He-Man was somebody who was always walking around in pink, tight pants, tight shirt, nice body. Come on, let's just be. I'm not. Look, pause, whatever you want to put there, but that's what they were putting out there to you. They were trying to get these children, man, tight clothes, strong, right? All this. Never has no girlfriend though. Always walking around with all these other guys and stuff like that. And then when it's time for him to become strong, he takes off all his clothes. And he does it under the power of Grayskull. It's not that far fetched for me now to see somebody who's walking around with a pride parade flag. And the pride parade flag is a rainbow that they've taken the indigo out of, like we talked about the other day. And they take the indigo out, they flip it upside down. So now the indigo represents wisdom. There's no wisdom. It's flipped upside down. The red on top is not the covering. Now the covering, the blood is on the bottom as they trample on your culture. And as they do it, they literally tell people, they write Satan on the pride flag, and they tell people as they give them gifts that God did not give this to you, but the devil did, to quote them. It's not that hard for me when I go back and I see what they were feeding us. This was always what was there. See, you keep thinking that your enemy is just coming up with stuff random because you think you're supposed to come up with stuff random. They've been planning this out for generations. This is not new. You thought it was funny when it was just somebody saying, put them up, put them up. Pink Lion saying it. And before that, it was a Cowardly Lion saying it, who wore a bow in his hair. Oh, see, y'all forgot. See, y'all, they thought we forgot. They thought we was just gonna let that go, or that we can't look at this stuff, or that this stuff can't be looked up. You see what I'm saying? Like, they've been feeding generations of this. It's not that hard when the people who are feeding you or are telling you a vision, television, teleporting a vision into you, and now they just use it through your telephone, right? The word phone means voice, teleport a voice into you. And all your children do is watch the same stuff that you were watching, but now it's even more. And it's just getting worse and worse and stronger and more hours a day. And now it's getting to a point to where they're just about to start pointing it in your head. They've already told you they got the technology where they're just going to start having it where you can think stuff and you don't have to worry about using your thumbs. You don't have to worry about your fingers. You don't have to worry about a device. We can just implant the stuff right in your head. The Cowardly Lion was a guy who acted like a girl the whole time. But people who watched that act like that was one of the best standards that you ever had. Matter of fact, a lot of people don't even know this. Do you know that The Wizard of Oz, when it came out, it was a box office flop because of stuff like that? Did you know that? Now we hold it up to something, but see, some people have changed how you look at the reality of it. When The Wizard of Oz, go look it up for yourself. The Wizard of Oz, when it came out, it was not popular. It was not a box office success, and people had a problem with a lion walking around with the bow and a scarecrow doing the stuff he was doing and all that. It was not a box office success. It was a flop. Matter of fact, if we be honest about it, the movie Oz that came out more recently with James Franco, that was still not a box office success, but it did better than The Wizard of Oz did. People did not like it, but in your mind, that's a standard. I'm not saying you like it as a standard. I'm saying in your mind, you would think that that's something that made a lot of. Now, are there things technologically that happened in The Wizard of Oz that when people look back and say, yeah, you know what, the way they did the tornado, that was actually pretty interesting. If you know how they did the tornado, there was no CGI. So they literally made something that looked like a tornado, right? It bent and everything in the background. They had a lot of wind and stuff like that going on underneath it. They had like these basically vacuums that were in reverse, spitting out air and stuff like that. And they had all these leaves and they had all this dust in the ground, and they had made all this like brown sugar and stuff that they would put through the air. And so it looked like it was something that you'd never seen before. Yeah, some of that stuff is true, but The Wizard of Oz was a box office flop. It was not a success. Yeah, they started showing it to people on television, and I wonder why. What purpose did it serve? Every male in that show. Look, when you look at the Tin Man's face, did the Tin Man look like he was masculine? What about the Scarecrow was masculine? What about the lion? Who's the lion, by the way? Right? But what about the lion look masculine? The Wizard of Oz. who's supposed to be the closest masculine thing you're gonna get. When they finally find him, he's scary, but he's not who he claims to be. I mean, everything in there. There's an agenda. It was propaganda. All these movies are propaganda. You don't think all these movies are propaganda? Every movie has a message behind it. All of them are propaganda. Your babies are out here playing with and watching Minion or watching Despicable Me, and then now watching Minions. That's some of the most gross stuff I've ever seen, especially for children. I'm not even holding you. I don't know which Minions. Is it number one? Or I'm sorry, which Despicable Me? If it's 1, 2, or 3, where you got whatever the guy's name is, the main character played by Steve Carell, and the main character sitting up there, and he gets messed over by the '80s guy from back in the day, and he's sitting up there basically hanging by a thong by the end of it, buck naked, where you can see everything except his parts, and they got the imprint of his parts. So even if you can't see it, you can at least imagine what it looks like. Right? Like this is stuff that there's no cartoon that's made for children. Because one thing they learned a long time ago, they actually had to start making laws, because one thing they learned a long time ago is that children don't really watch with their parents unless their parents let them watch stuff anyways. A lot of parents want to sit down and watch with their children anyways, so they'll actually put stuff in there, including jokes that are inappropriate, but they'll put stuff in there so that the parent will like the movie enough to sit through it, because normally the parent would be bored by it, because it's not for a parent, it's for a child. But they don't make movies for children, they make movies for adults. They don't make cartoons for children, they make cartoons for adults. That's why I loved Cartoon Network, because I was a child that was like, wait a minute. Now I know they said clear as day. I was sneaking and watching it. I know this, right? But I'm saying when they had Cartoon Network came out with that Adult Swim, oh yeah, I was quick to be on Adult Swim. Way before the Boondocks and all that. I was quick to be a Harvey Birdman, attorney at law, and all that. Some of y'all might know what I'm talking about, some of you don't. But that stuff was wild. It was wicked. But it was stuff that I'd never heard before, and so I just wanted to sit and watch it. And it was stuff that we all talked about in school the next day. It was stuff that we would all discuss. Right? And even the Boondocks, as much as I think every person at some point, even though there's cursing and stuff in it, person at some point, I used to watch, I didn't even know the Boondocks was a show. I was always reading the comic. If y'all know, the Boondocks started off as a comic first. So I was always reading the comic every day, and then I got the book. It was, to me, it was like listening to Calvin and Hobbes, or watching it. Like I used to, watch or reading Calvin and Hobbes, and then buy the book. And same thing with me. I thought the Boondocks was just a book. Everybody started telling me watch it, and come to find out, they had turned my favorite cartoon strip into an actual cartoon. And I think everybody, just for seeing how stuff works in life, and political, it's not even political satire, it's like truth that's in your face. A lot of stuff they even put in there that y'all think is wild, they actually are just quoting other things. Like, for example, forgive me, it's for educational purposes only. Y'all know the episode with the Booty Warrior. If you ever heard the episode with the Booty Warrior, right, from the Boondocks, that's based off of a real person. The stuff that he says to start the show. Now, he didn't say it to the guy who's over the show, but they interviewed a guy in prison, right? And the guy in prison, the stuff that he says, like, I'm a warrior and all this stuff, and he says, I like, when he says stuff like, there's nothing in here in prison that's more valuable than a man's butt, and this stuff, that was an actual real guy who said that stuff. You can look it up in the interview, and all they did was transcribe what he said, and they quoted it in the show. Right. So they're actually, like, when you're watching the Boondocks, they're actually like giving you real life scenarios and putting this stuff together and putting it in a way to where you're like, how did they do all it? But this is real. Like, they're not just coming up with stuff random, or when they had the episode when Jin and the other guy's name isn't Rummy, is it? But when the two white guys who act like black guys, right? Back in the day, you used to call them wiggers and stuff. But the black guy or the two white guys that act like black guys and stuff, and they were working for their for Ed Wunsler, one of their fathers, and the guy who's one of their fathers. Oh, I didn't know he was out of jail. Okay, and the guy who's one of their fathers, he what's the word I'm looking for? The guy who's one of their fathers, he ends up they end up working for him. They're about to blow up a building. And the reason they're going to blow up a building is and they had already decided that everybody was going to be out the building. There was this one guy who was always calling into this radio show and was always speaking nonsense on this Republican radio show. They were going to basically blow the building up, extinguishing this person's life. And after that, they were going to make him a martyr. And they had all these toys that were ready to be able to sell to be able to make sure that this person was a martyr and they would make money off of it for the rest of their lives while they had taken his life. Everybody else was already gone from the building and all this. Now, Huey, the whole episode basically ends like they think that because he's black and because he's a freedom fighter, they say the whole episode he's the problem. He's the one that's going to do it. And so the police are looking for him. They're about to like start torturing him, and they find out that it's actually this rich, really rich guy, right? And that it's his child's and his child's friend that are doing this. And so they try to stop it. And so Huey actually ends up helping. And on the news, you look at it like Huey is the problem. But Huey and this guy, this white FBI agent or CIA or whatever he is, they work together and actually squash everything. But when you watch the news, you think it's the reverse. Like these guys are wild, they're wicked. Then they save the day. And then the guy basically corners Ed Wunster, the guy who's in charge. And Ed Wunster's character is like, yeah, I'm gonna tell you this is exactly what the plan was. You messed it up. You effed up our money, this and that. And then the guy's like, well, you're evil. And we're gonna get you. And he was like, no, this is the way it's gonna go down. He said, your people are gonna come to you. They're gonna tell you this. They're gonna tell you that. And then you're basically gonna go away. And I'm gonna keep doing what I do. And a lot of people just think of that as, wow, that's a really crazy thing. But that's stuff that's actually been proven that there have been people who have been offed just to make them national heroes. Right? These are the people who pay you your wages. They deal in nothing but death. This is what these people live in. This is how they make their money. When stuff's not alive, they make money off of it. I don't want to go too deep into this next part because this will really, get me in trouble if I go too deep. I would just say be willing to do some research. But why is it that nobody thinks about the fact that the vice president of the United States corporation decides to pull his money out of something attached to a couple of buildings because when he became vice president, he was still making money out of it, but he couldn't be in head of the company anymore. All of a sudden, he pulls his money out. His boys pull his money out. Next thing you know, that company that pulls their money out of that particular building, or stuff attached to that building, let's say, they realize they're going to make more money the next day because the next day, 2 of those buildings have airplanes that come into them. And not only that, the people who need to back up what they're doing and pay them, right, work in this building called the Pentagon. And the Pentagon almost has an explosion in it, although nobody's ever seen a plane. There's no evidence of any plane, none. Matter of fact, I have people in my family who work at the Pentagon and who were right next to the Pentagon when everything went down. And they will tell you that nobody saw anything in the air. They heard an explosion. If you look in the cameras, nobody saw anything in the air. You heard an explosion. Next thing you know, there's all these people who supposedly were heroes in the country. We can't find, if we be honest though, here's the weird part about it. We can't find their bodies. And we never found a plane in Pennsylvania. Did you ever research that? We don't, because we just go off of what the people who pay our wages say. But did you ever research that there was no plane ever found? Like you know this, right? Like there's a groove, so they say that where the plane went, but nobody ever found evidence that there was a plane there in Pennsylvania. Nobody ever found evidence there was a plane there in the Pentagon. And the Pentagon, I can tell you for sure because I've seen some pictures that I'm not supposed to have seen because of people that I knew, around that time because I was in the military. Right now, I'm not saying that this is stuff that 100%. What I'm saying is at the end of the day, even if there were 4 planes, because there were definitely 2, even if there were 4 or 3 out of 4, because we still can't find evidence of the one that's in the pit. Because by the way that works too is we would have evidence of certain things, because certain things on planes, especially certain pieces on planes, are designed to where they don't crumble. There's certain things that are not going to go away. There's certain things that are not going to be like, oh, the whole plane is going to fall apart. The way planes are designed, right? There's never been a plane crash to where we couldn't find any, like everything was smaller than this, right? But I'm not gonna go super deep into it. I'm just saying nobody ever like looks at it because the people that pay your wages are the people that tell you how to feel. Right? Like there's people that will show you if you do a Google search, on, and I'm this is the last thing I'm gonna say about it because I'm not trying to get in trouble, right? But if you do a Google search on airplane, Pennsylvania, September 11th, right? You will find that there'll be pictures that seem to have something that looks like a plane that doesn't seem to make sense with the grooves and the stuff. And then there's one to where there's no plane at all, but there's this groove in a place and it looks like somebody actually like moved it in. And then you'll find one where it's like you'll find some pictures where it says we think this is where the plane landed, and you'll start realizing we don't know if there was a plane there or not. But that's really weird because we had this whole story. People have written songs and everything, but there's a lot of stuff that happened. And look, I'm using a very extreme one. It's for educational purposes. I'm using an extreme example, but there's many examples that are a lot less than that. Right? Look it up. There are people who actually go out and disprove fake, like real fake news, because there are people that put stuff out there just to get views or just to get people to do stuff. So there, you have to be careful. There are times where it'll say, um, this black person was blah 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 about a white person, and you have to look it up to see because sometimes they did that just to have a movement, so to speak. Right? So you can't even just believe it because there's a lot of stuff that's put out there just to cause fighting. Just to cause fighting. But who pays your wages? These people that pay your wages are wicked and evil. How would you lie to me about that there's a person of my diaspora, knowing how wild and it is that I have to have an existence, that I have to always look to make sure that I'm all right just because of the color of my skin in certain places I go to? How dare you lie to me and say that you guys did that, knowing that I would be quicker to believe it because I've seen it. I've had to run from it. I've seen it. How dare you say that? You know why you say that? You know why you say that? You say that because you know that people will believe it. So we might as well go with your Hashfai who paid it all and said that I'll always tell you the truth. And I want you to always live in truth. I want you to always be in this amat, right? I always want you to be in there. I always want you to live in reality and not what's virtual. We might use what's virtual, but we always trying to use what's virtual to really explain reality. A lot of people are trying to excuse reality so that you live in what's virtual. Ask Facebook how that's going for them, right? But they're trying. My son and I just finished doing some virtual reality the other day. Right? They trying really hard. So just trying to say, be careful. Once again, what we were talking about today, who pays your wages? If the person who pays your wages is leading you to sin, and sin leads you to having no life, and having no life means you'll have no abundance, and having no abundance leads to an eternal place without having abundance. At some point, we should ask ourselves, why do we still have allegiance or pledge allegiance to these things and these items? That being said, thank you for being on. I appreciate you all. I'll talk to you guys soon. I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to take my leave. Thank you for listening in. We appreciate you. I will be on this evening at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time. Maybe we'll be able to do our Patreon thing tonight. Maybe we won't. But I'll be on at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time. For those who are coming on tomorrow, I will be on tomorrow again. After tomorrow, we should have somebody back in place for our Wednesdays, but I'll be back on tomorrow for the rising only. In the evening, we'll go and support Minister Tamara. Tonight, though, I'll be back on. We'll probably do Patreon around 7 p.m. Or Kofi_40 if you want to catch it there. We'll record it on Patreon at 8 p.m. Thank you all for being on. Hopefully, you got something from today. I appreciate you. And we look forward to seeing you guys soon. So continue to be great. Please check out my wife, the Honorable Maya, on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. July 12th is coming up on, wait a minute. Oh, wow. Today's the 11th. I messed something up. Anyways, tomorrow's the 12th coming up, so don't forget that that's the halfway point. If you're coming with us, Feast of Tabernacles, even if you need help, let us know in advance. August 12th is when we're looking for the entire thing. So even if you didn't hit the halfway point, try to see if you can do by August 12th, or once again, work with us, let us know so we can be aware and we can still make plans and make room for you, whatever, when you come. Okay. Yeah. Thank you all. We appreciate you. We look forward to seeing you guys soon. And we'll talk to you later tonight. So as always, it's been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again, please remember, as always, y'all said that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom. For those of you who never done a shout out with us, if you're still with us on TikTok, the shout out goes as follows.